вам мікрофон підключати, радіоподвижка, чи ви будете через це говорити? Як вам зручніше?
Мені все рівно, в принципі. Можу через це говорити. У мене, в принципі, з голосом все гаразд.
Все гаразд? Ну,
Так.
давайте так. Я вам залишу. Якщо просто я буду біля камери стояти, покличте мене рукою, я підійду вам підключу подвижку.
Добре.
Добренько?
Перепрошую, ви будете вести?
Ні, мабуть.
А то ви вести, бо ми можемо мікрофон перекріпити сюди, щоб...
У мене написано, що головує...
Добре.
Sorry, will you...
I should.
Yeah, okay. Але, мабуть, він мав тут сидіти. А ні, що тут?
I'll leave it for a while, if I may. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I may use my favorite address, all the protocols observed, because if I will start, to call the names and to call on all the magnificencies and all the VVIPs and celebrities in this hall, it would take some time. So I would start, of course, on a word of thanking the organizers, the Slovak Foreign Policy Association, as well as its Ukrainian partners, for giving us the opportunity to be here with you in this magnificent historical town of Lviv. We received a very warm and friendly welcome indeed. And our gratitude specifically goes to the Rector of Lviv Polytechnic National University, Mr. Yuri Bobalo, to the head of the Lviv Oblast State Administration, Mr. Oleg Sinyutka, to the head of Lviv Regional Council, Mr. Alexander Hanushchin, to the Deputy Mayor of the Lviv City, Mr. Rostislav Datskiv. Visegrad countries, I have the opportunity and the privilege as the Deputy Foreign Minister of Slovakia, and as we used to say, the local chairman for this very event, to represent at this rostrum. The Visegrad countries and Ukraine has a long tradition of cooperation in the energy sector. Slovakia and Ukraine, for example, enjoys the 50 years, half of the century, of tradition of reliable transit of oil and crude oil and gas from east to west. Moreover, in September 2014, we launched the reverse flow of gas from Slovakia, Hungary and Poland to Ukraine, with the main ambition to enhance the Ukraine energy security. Back then, Ukraine, as you remember, found herself at one of the most difficult moments of her history. We helped Ukraine to overcome energy security struggles. And today, I should note, the three nations are the main transitors and the main importers of gas to Ukraine. Know that. I'm glad to inform you that the Visegrad 4 countries supplies of gas, which is like 10.4 billion of cubic meters, are in 2015 are indeed the lifeline for this country. Regarding this issue, let me mention that the total capacity of reverse flow of gas from Slovakia to Ukraine is something like 14.6 billion cubic meters per year, and there is still sufficient capacity which can meet rising demand on the Ukrainian side. And let's face it, it was only the success story of the reverse gas flow that gave us a chance to move on to the agenda of energy efficiency. We will be solving completely different issues. We believe that the transformation in energy sector is a fundamental prerequisite for further economic growth, stability and prosperity of Ukraine. As I used to say, there is an efficiency energy triad. First of all, that reform should first raise the Ukrainian resilience towards any pressures from the outside. These pressures, as we know only too well, are coming from the east. Second, this reform should take out, hopefully, the corruption which is attached to the deliveries and to the distribution of gas in this country. And third, this reform should lead to the social sustainability of any reforms which are coming also in this field and beyond. So I welcome that significant part of the conference auditorium is consistent of mayors and regional leaders. We believe that regional administrations and municipalities are a key to significant energy savings. However, to do that, Ukraine has to adopt necessary regulatory measures, notably effective energy legislation. Regarding previous energy efficiency activities, I would like to stress that the Slovak Innovation and Energy Agency, which is the main player in this field in my country, signed the Memorandum of Understanding with the State Agency for Energy Savings and Energy Efficiency of Ukraine in September 2015. This creates conditions for further cooperation in this field. Through the International Vишеград Fund or individually through the Slovak aid programs, we are able to support educational and research activities in the area of energy efficiency and know-how transfer from Slovakia, or indeed from Vишеград countries to Ukraine. I take this opportunity to present the Slovak Republic as somebody like the EU frontrunner in the implementation of energy efficiency measures, notably in the area of energy efficiency legislation, systems of central heating, state support of thermal insulation, and likes. We are still facing challenges towards our energy security, no doubt about it. All of you are aware that there is an infrastructural project named Nord Stream 2, which has an intention to bypass Ukrainian gas transit system, actually robbing you of the status of the strategic transitor. This project would lead to significant financial losses to Ukraine. From our point of view, it is not feasible to speak about the support for Ukraine with one hand and then to make steps undermining Ukraine's position by some of EU member states, only for the benefit of few private companies. I am glad to note that all Vишеград countries have been vigorously opposing these projects since its inception. We all know that implementation of reforms is painful and difficult, but at the end they will bring an enormous long-term benefit to Ukraine and its citizens. We, the FE4 countries, wish to accompany Ukraine at this arduous path. Thank you so much for your attention. I wish us all a fruitful conference, and I will use the only Slovak word which is appropriate in this context, ďakujem. And Mr. Rector, I would love to invite you to take the floor.
Доброго дня, шановні учасники круглого столу. Маю щасливу нагоду привітати вас в стінах найстарішого і найбільшого вищого технічного закладу Східної Європи і України. Власне, ми з вами перебуваємо в історичній актовій залі, прикрашеній монументальним живописним літописом прогресу людства, створеним великим польським художником Яном Матейком та його учнями. Народжені понад 140 років тому назад, ці унікальні полотна мають надзвичайно актуальне звучання і зараз, оскільки блискуче розкривають глобальну ідею розвитку людської цивілізації, в основі якої лежать наукові та технічні знання. Знання, котрі дають людям невичерпні можливості змінювати своє життя на краще. Наш університет належить до загальновизнаних європейських академічних освітньо-наукових центрів. Ми пишаємось, що випускники Львівської політехніки, а їх нині налічується понад 170 тисяч, обіймають найвищі посади у владних, бізнесових та фінансових структурах, науці та індустрії. У Львівській політехніці творили визначні наукові світила, корифеї відомих в світі наукових шкіл, котрі завжди сповідували чудовий лозунг, закарбований на фронтоні головного корпусу «Literis et artibus» – наукам і мистецтвам. Чимала заслуга наших науковців і у розв'язанні такої фундаментальної проблеми, як енергоефективність. Корисне, ефективне витрачання енергоресурсів нині набуває глобального характеру і має надзвичайно актуальне значення для всіх держав. Україна, обравши європейський вектор розвитку, домагається диверсифікації постачання, формування і впровадження європейських стандартів єврозбереження. У цьому сенсі важливо переоцінити роль і значення прикладних наукових досліджень, поглиблення міжнародного та європейського співробітництва у даній сфері. Сподіваюся, що притаманна нашому університету світла, аура добра і наукової мислі спонукатиме всіх вас до активної та плідної співпраці під час засідання круглого столу, до реалізації спільних взаємовигідних проєктів, скерованих на інтеграцію України у європейську спільноту. Дякую. Олег Михайлович.
Шановні панове міністри, панове посли, шановні пані і панове, я хочу подякувати за те, що сьогоднішня зустріч відбувається на Львівщині. Це є дуже знаково для нашого регіону, тому що ми позиціонуємо Львівщину як регіон, який повинен стати локомотивом руху України в Європу. Це для нас покладає додаткову відповідальність, тому що ми хочемо, щоб ті стандарти Європейського Союзу, які сьогодні є нормою для країн Вишеградської групи, були впроваджені перш за все на Львівщині, і Львівщина стала пілотом для України по реалізації стандартів Європейського Союзу і в першу чергу в галузі енергозбереження. Львівщина сьогодні в Україні є важлива область з точки зору транзиту енергоресурсів. Львівщина сьогодні є одна із найбільших областей, де є можливості по видобутку, транспортуванню і переробці енергоресурсів. Я переконаний, що під час сьогоднішньої конференції будуть репрезентовані ті можливості, які сьогодні є на теренах Львівщини, а це в першу чергу можливості для газотранспортування і нафтотранспортування. Ми переконані в тому, що не вичерпані сьогодні всі можливості по видобутку нафти і газу, які сьогодні є на території Львівщини. Ми очікуємо, що впровадження новітніх технологій і наукових розробок, якими сьогодні користуються провідні європейські і світові компанії, дасть новий поштовх для розробки нафто- і газородовищ на території нашого регіону. Для нас є надзвичайно важливим, щоб альтернативна енергетика і можливості використання вітрової енергетики, сонячної енергії стали стандартами для Львівщини, і ми готові запропонувати відповідні площадки для реалізації інвестиційних проєктів. Шановні пані і панове, ми готові для того, щоб стати пілотним регіоном для впровадження проєктів країн Вишеградської групи. Для нас є дуже важливо, щоб ті іноземні компанії і ті наукові розробки, які сьогодні є в країнах Вишеградської групи, були реалізовані на теренах Львівщини. Для цього ми готові забезпечити інвестиційні площадки, для цього ми готові запропонувати можливості для супроводу інвестиційних проєктів, і для цього ми робимо все можливе, щоб рівень корупції на території Львівщини був близький до нуля, і будь-який бізнес відчував себе на території Львівщини захищеним. Я переконаний, що сьогоднішня наша зустріч стане ще одним прикладом в тому, що Львівщина є сьогодні найбільш привабливим регіоном на території України з точки зору інвестицій і можливості реалізації енергоефективних проєктів. Дякую і запрошую вас до роботи.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to ask the head of the Lviv Regional Council, Mr. Hanushchin, to take the floor. Mr. Speaker.
Шановні пані і панове, прийміть, будь ласка, вітання від імені всього депутатського корпусу Львівської обласної ради, всі учасники заходу. У питаннях енергоефективності Львівщина точно ніколи не пасла задніх. Переважна більшість так званих пілотних проєктів в бюджетній сфері, приватному секторі, зрештою науці починалися тут і впроваджувалися далі на інших українських теренах. Це ще більше утверджує нас у думці, що нам і надалі необхідний обмін досвідом, ми і надалі прагнемо транскордонної співпраці, і ми розраховуємо надалі від наших країн-сусідів на підтримку нових проєктів. Причому розраховуємо на підтримку не тільки технологіями, досвідом відповідних управлінських рішень, а й щиро на це сподіваємося, що відповідними кредитами, грантами і новими інвестиціями. Користуючись нагодою, хочу ще раз подякувати представникам урядів країн Вишеградської четвірки, представникам депутатського корпусу дипломатів за ті зусилля, котрі ви прикладаєте до допомоги Україні в розв'язаній російсько-українській війні і за зусилля, котрі прикладають ваші уряди і ви для встановлення миру. Нехай щастить.
And we will complete the opening part of our session by the speech by Mr. Deputy Mayor of the city of Lviv, Mr. Rostislav Datskiv.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to take part in our conference. You know that Lviv have a good architecture, but we have some achievements in energy branch. We have anniversary, 25 anniversary of before, and especially thanks for delegation of Slovakia for organization of a meeting. I wish you good work and good luck. You're welcome. We are happy that you have a possibility to see our Lviv. Lviv is a pearl of West Ukrainian, and I believe that our meeting will be a good result, and we have some achievement and efficiency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Datskiv. This opening part should now morph into the first panel, which I have the privilege and honor to chair. We would like to, first of all, mention that the roadshow is like the third stopover of the joint Vishegrád Ukrainian project. First Chernihiv, after that Chernivtsi, now Lviv, and possibly as soon as in April of 2016, Vinica. But it all started actually in October 2014 here in Lviv. So you may say that this is indeed the birthplace of that initiative. We are in a way somehow completing the circle. Much was said. the energy efficiency will be spoken for the remainder of the day. For possibly one truism for the start, it is absolutely clear that the cheapest and the cleanest energy is the energy not used. And I would like to make full use of the fact that I have my three distinguished Visegrad group colleagues to my left, and I would like to introduce them and ask them to give us their perspective on the topic. And possibly after that, I will ask our Ukrainian colleague, Deputy Foreign Minister Zerkalo, to comment on what was mentioned. I wanted to introduce this panel, because this is the panel already, by a general question, so that all colleagues could find their own priorities, by asking them what in their view, what in their capital's view, are the key priorities for Ukraine in the reform area for the incoming year, for the time which awaits us. But I also wanted to add one specific question, because again we have so many actors from various levels of government in this room, and ask them on their division of labor and division of competencies in their respective countries among the state level, among the regional level, and finally among the municipal level. With that, I would indeed like to give the floor first to Mr. Deputy Minister Jaroslav Ludva, who is actually our real chairman, because it is the Czech Republic which is holding the presidency by June 2016. Jaroslav, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Possibly you should go for the opening statement. You should go to that.
Thank you, Igor. Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, before answering Slovak State Secretary's question, I would like to say a few general remarks, and then I would approach this concrete questions related to our today's topic. After breaking up of the Soviet Union, Ukraine faced three immediate challenges: to establish genuine statehood and independence for its brand new country, create effective democracy with checks and balances and rule of law, and make the transition from communist command economy to market-oriented one. Accomplishing all three tasks at once was essential, but extremely difficult. The post-Maidan honeymoon has ended. Reforms are a demand of the Ukrainian people, who are pushing the government to undertake steps to transform the country and help it emerge as a democratic and prosperous state. Today, Ukraine has to fight on two fronts: one to regain its territorial integrity against Russia's aggression, and the second to implement reform. The two fronts are interlinked, and success on both will secure Ukraine's future. However, Ukrainians understand that even if it's harder to reform during the war, structural reform remains a precondition for Ukraine's ability to defend its military and thus to survive. Reform is also as well a demand from the international community supporting the Ukrainian fight for freedom and sovereignty. Speaking about which, to say which reform is the most important one is not an easy task to say, but judiciary reform is one of the prime priorities always, and especially these days in Ukraine. And since we are here on the so-called V4 roadshow, meaning V4 countries visit on a regular basis different regions of Ukraine, we deal with local authorities. So in this respect, I would say that a reform of local administration and governance is one of the top priorities of this country, because it's a base on which you can build a statehood. Without that, it cannot function. So it's a response to Igor's question, which one is the main priority in our view. And since we are here to deal with the topic of energy efficiency, I would like to share the Czech experience in this regard. The Czech Republic has experience with transformation from centrally planned economy to liberal market. This included reforms in the energy sector. Due to our commitment to join the EU, Czech Republic needed to implement an EU energy acquis, including measures in energy efficiency. Being a country with a high share of industry on GDP and with low energy efficiency at that time, our potential energy savings and efficiency was huge. And I would dare to say that we share this legacy, which I have just mentioned. We share this legacy across the V4. As far as competencies are concerned, competencies meaning having in mind national, regional, and local one. So first, every EU member state needs to implement EU directive. Second, our Ministry of Energy issued binding national action plan. For example, this plan sets a Czech national target to insulate 3% of state-owned buildings per year. And third, our region and municipalities are motivated by EU structural funds and run their projects in energy efficiency. Let me underline that EU directives are binding for us, for all of us. If we fail to follow, we risk a fine from the European Commission, meaning that's why the rule of law is a basic condition. Likewise, the Czech Ministry of Industry issues binding guidelines for Czech municipalities to follow and to meet the target in local energy efficiency. I would like to, I'm nearing to the end of my short speech, and I would like to mention briefly the Czech assistance to Ukraine in this respect. First, we want to share our know-how with Ukraine. Second, that is why we run a bilateral project improving energy efficiency of public administration buildings, implemented from 2014 to 2016, and we provided for this project 11 million Czech crowns, which is about, I would say, roughly slightly over 400,000 euros. Third, we contributed to Eastern Partnership Energy Efficiency Fund, 0.5 million euros. Long-term gas contracts are over, yet there are opportunities for efficiency. And last, let me say a few words, which I wouldn't say it's a recommendation, but it's a suggestion, a hint to Ukrainian leaders that long-term commitment is a base, and you should aim to learn from EU experience rather than to create dependence on funds. So since I was allocated 5 minutes speaking time, I think it's over, and I thank you for attention.
Thank you, and I would like now to ask my dear Hungarian colleague, Deputy Foreign Minister István Mikola, to take the floor. István. Yes, you may do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to
It's more convenient.
No, sorry. Just push the button. No. Yeah. Order. Okay.
It doesn't work. Excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to make some comments about the 3 issues. Firstly, to the priorities issue. 2 years after Maidan, Kiev should deliver results with respect to the modernization process in order to avoid tensions in the society. We note with certain concern the internal policy situation in the country. Stable governance is also a precondition for the continuation of the structural reforms and the EU integration process, as well as to the implementation of the Minsk agreement. Constitutional reform and decentralization are key areas, and implementation of the already adopted reform measures should be a priority. Moscow made a strategic failure by triggering conflict in Ukraine because it has basically lost Kiev. Ukraine's European orientation has now become a reality, recently enhanced also by the start of the provisional application of the EU-Ukraine DCFTA, and hopefully in the next few months also by the introduction of the EU's visa-free regime. We welcome the application of the DCFTA from January 2016. It will provide important new momentum for the deepening of bilateral cooperation and integration between the EU and Ukraine. Hungary consistently supports the EU integration and visa liberalization aspirations of Ukraine. We welcome the progress report of the Commission issued on 18th of December 2015 on the Visa Liberalization Action Plan, which opens the way towards the introduction of a visa-free travel regime with Ukraine in 2016. Keeping in mind that for Hungary, the unity of the EU and of the V4 is a priority. I believe when it comes to EU-Russia relations, including sanctions, we cannot avoid a political debate on the way forward. To the second issue, supporting Ukraine, I would like to make some comments. Hungary firmly stands for the independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of Ukraine and supports the European Union sanctions against Russia. As a neighbor of Ukraine, it is all the more important for us to reach a peaceful resolution of the crisis. The Minsk agreements provide the necessary framework for that. The parties should take further steps to achieving a lasting ceasefire, at the same time moving forward with the political elements of the Minsk package should also remain a priority. We are encouraged by the work carried out in the framework of the Trilateral Contact Group and its working groups, and we are looking forward to the text Normandy Format Summit meeting planned for early March. We are contributing to NATO-Ukrainian cooperation as well as the enhancement of the Ukrainian security and defense structures. Let me recall that the Vishegrád group was among the quickest to react to the turbulent events in Ukraine, and we were united in supporting Ukraine, knowing that a hard and challenging way is ahead of the country. We immediately took the necessary steps to assist Ukraine's reforms and stabilization, humanitarian assistance, medical supply and rehabilitation, contribution to international missions. We remain open to sharing our transition and integration expertise. We allocated considerable resources to Ukrainian projects and scholarships through the International Vishegrád Fund, including a successful program to reactive for training Ukrainian officials in the V4 capitals. You know, Hungary has no fossil fuels, Hungary no minerals. We have knowledge-based capital, we think that. So we would like to build into the global value chains with our knowledge-based capital. That's our value added. This forum is the third event of the V4 plus Ukraine Roadshow project. It clearly shows that our attention and support towards Ukraine remains strong. Today's event is about energy efficiency, whose importance cannot be overestimated. Let me also inform you that Hungary is preparing the next roadshow event to be held in April in Vишеград. The topic will be economic reform, especially small and medium enterprises, as we strive for providing as concrete assistance as possible. And at last, some sentences to the energy efficiency. The realization of the North-South Eastern Corridor connecting countries from the Baltics to the Balkans is of strategic importance for the energy security of our region and should be a great example of successful regional cooperation. We participate in the high-level group on Central and Southeastern Europe gas connectivity initiated by the European Commission. Hungary will host the next ministerial meeting in July 2016. Hungary, together with Slovakia and Poland, is committed to exploring gas to Ukraine. Hungary has been contributing to Ukraine's gas supply since 2013, and since then nearly 2.2 billion cubic meters of gas have been delivered to Ukraine through Hungary. We are concerned about the developments of the Nord Stream 2 project. The expansion of Nord Stream deprives Central and Southeastern Europe of investments in other viable projects. Furthermore, Nord Stream 2 may also have an adverse impact by downgrading the geopolitical importance of our region. We support the diplomatic efforts of the V4 countries most adversely affected by the possible realization of Nord Stream 2. Hungary welcomes that, in line with the V4 plus Romania proposal, the State of the Energy Union was included into the agenda and conclusions of the December European Council. Within the strategy, the detailed examination of the domestic building stock have been performed. Not only the domestic buildings were examined, but also the public buildings were evaluated by the function of the building, year of construction, types of building structures, and building technology in use, as well as specific energy consumption. Since 2001, the government regularly announces different programs for energy efficiency renovations of residential buildings, as well as support programs for purchase of energy-efficient household appliances. These support schemes are financed by the revenues of carbon dioxide quotas, as well as domestic budgetary resources. Large companies have a great potential in increasing energy efficiency. In order to continually achieve this, a number of measures have been introduced. These periodically energy audits are mandatory, so is sending reports of their energy consumption to the authority, and there also are energy development grants available from different sources. As a conclusion, we advise developing a long-term strategy on energy supply and consumption with clear targets like energy security, competitiveness, sustainability. Then focus on mid- and short-term targets and make all decisions in light of the long-term strategy. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister. Now, who is leaving the rostrum, that's your next host for the next stopover of the Vишеград Roadshow, but we will have now the remarks by somebody who is in the incoming presidency of the Vишеград Group as such, Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister Marek Zielkowski, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Ukraine is undergoing a significant, crucial change that would decide its fate for long-term future. All reforms mentioned by us, especially Mr. Slobodkin, are an essential part of framework of this change as declared by the Ukrainian government. Its full implementation will lead to a fundamental reconstruction of the Ukrainian state. That is why the process of reforms in Ukraine is supported by every country that wants stable, flourishing Ukraine. We four countries are especially interested in development cooperation with its neighbor from the region. That is why we work with Ukraine within the V4 plus Ukraine format. This is a reason for roadshow project that started last year. Today's third conference within that project demonstrates the Vishegrad's countries' determination in supporting Kiev's reformatory actions. Since we are immediate neighbors and Poland is engaged in deep development cooperation with Ukraine for many years. Answering to our Ukrainian colleagues' requests, we have concentrated our support mainly on two spheres, decentralization and anti-corruption. We agree with Kiev that these elements are crucial to remove systemic problems in the administration that influence all spheres of social, economic, and public life of Ukraine. That is why the first roundtable within the Roadshow project organized by Poland last year in Chernihiv was dedicated to the decentralization reform. And dear colleagues, just a few days ago we celebrated 25th anniversary of the V4 group in a marvelous event organized by our Czech colleagues in Prague. Thank you very much. Our presence here on the third conference in our joint efforts to provide support for Ukraine shows that our coordination works. Mr. Chairman, dear colleagues, on a few remarks on sparing energy or efficiency energy technologies and techniques. I don't want to go into field of the Slovak expertise, elaborating too much on the energy efficiency issue. Let me just underline a few elements from our side. Poland is making a significant progress in implementing the national target for efficient energy management, i.e. towards achieving by 2016 a minimum of 9% of the final energy savings of the 2001-2005 national average consumption. The sector of the economy with the highest demand for end-use energy is industry, even though its demand for energy decreased from approximately 32% in 2000 to 24% in 2011. But still production is growing for this period. Energy-intensive industries, iron and steel, chemical and mineral, account for 60% of energy consumption in the processing industries. At the same time, there was a significant increase in demand for energy in the transport sector from 17% to 27%. The share of households in energy consumption fluctuates between 32% and 30%, while the share of agriculture decreased from 10% to 6%. Therefore, we are ready to provide the knowledge and experience needed by the Ukrainian side. We are already working with the energy sector. We see large potential in renewable energy sources, and therefore we support Ukrainian partners by transferring Polish experience in this area. For instance, at the end of 2015, we successfully completed a research project as a part of biogas production program in municipal wastewater treatment plant in Lviv. And answering last question, local authorities must use what is at their disposal, of course. The financial decentralization helps to provide more resources at local level. I hope that the continuation of the local government reform would lead to broadening access to the financial base as well as the proper competences. Armed with that resources, you can introduce all reforms, also concerning energy efficiency accordingly, exactly where they are needed. Dear friends, I would like to wish you a good and productive discussion that would lead to tangible results for Ukraine. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And last but definitely not least, I would like now to ask Madam Deputy Foreign Minister Nazarkal to share some of her thoughts and reflections.
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to thank all Visegrad 4 countries for support and for actual assistance to Ukraine in this quite a difficult path of reforms. And I also would like to thank for hosting us to Lviv. And this is our second opportunity to meet here. And I do hope that it will be fruitful. And I really think that this format of cooperation is a very important one. Why? Because in comparison with member states, we don't have any possibility to use all instruments that accession countries have in order to prepare themselves for the accession. However, we started implementation of a very ambitious agreement, which is association agreement. And we started this implementation in a very challenging time and very difficult time. While we conducted negotiations, we lived in quite a different atmosphere and conditions. We did not expect that we would face such a blatant aggression from Russian Federation. We did not expect that Crimea would be occupied. And tomorrow will be quite a sad date, 2 years since the occupation of Crimea. And we have faced a number of challenges, internal and external. And in these circumstances, any assistance and any support is a very important one. And the opportunity we have here to discuss the energy efficiency and reforms in energy sector is one of the crucial ones. I remember quite well how we started the implementation of the association agreement, and when we became a member of energy community, how it was difficult to us to understand all rules and procedures which exist in the European Union. But one thing is to have a legislation, to implement norms. Another thing is to create an administrative structure and create a capacity which will give you an opportunity to use this legislation properly and to implement it properly and to help everybody to enjoy this fruitful implementation. And 2 years ago, when we started our trilateral dialogue within the assistance of European Commission with Russians on the gas supplies, you know how it was difficult to diversify all these gas supplies. And now we're in an absolutely different situation, where we supply more than a half of the gas volumes through European Union. We actually stopped all consumption of Russian gas since the beginning of this year. And this is quite a great achievement for us. We also adopted new legislation in the field of gas market. And this year, we hope that we will succeed in electricity market approximation of legislation. We also will have to adopt a number of different kinds of legislation. And I would like to remind you that the association agreement is a very ambitious agreement. We took on our shoulders a number of obligations. And we will have to move forward with the view to succeed in this way, because this is a very important step forward to European Union. Our society made a choice, and now our main goal is to succeed in this reform path. And this is not an easy task. We are living in a very turbulent atmosphere. And you know how it's difficult to pass legislation through the parliament, to introduce new norms, to persuade our members of the parliament to adopt these new regulations. And actually, what we did last year showed us that we can be successful. Last May, we received not the last, but pre-last report of the European Commission concerning the implementation of the Visa Liberalization Action Plan. And in that time, it seemed to us that it was not absolutely possible to adopt all the recommendations we received in May. It was 54 recommendations. But then, because of the joint efforts, we managed to succeed. And the final report, which was actually issued by the Commission at the end of the year in December, showed that we made a significant progress. And I do hope that this progress will give us the feeling that together we can do a lot. And with the assistance of the Vишegrad 4 countries, I do hope that we will succeed also in decentralization, in energy efficiency, and in other very important issues. And I hope that we will use also this opportunity to discuss with our colleagues how we will move forward and what other topics we will cover during next years, and how we will make our cooperation even more fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. On that, I would possibly like to open up this panel, and I do hope that also my co-panelists to the right will be ready to respond to any questions from the floor. I would just like kindly to ask you to introduce yourself and to focus on the question, not that much on the commentary, but indeed the question and answers period for about 30 minutes is on. Please, anybody, I do hope we have some microphones. If not, the acoustics would allow also to speak without the microphone. Please. Can't see anybody breaking the ice for the time being in the room. So possibly, is there anything that the first speakers, the speakers who delivered the opening speeches, would like to comment on from what they heard from so to say, the speakers on the left side of this panel? Well, if that's not, there is one. Please, the icebreaker.
В своїх країнах 100% облік на газ. Скільки у вас часу пішло на запровадження 100% обліку тепла? Тому що облік – це є перший крок до енергоефективності. Дякую.
You mean now the measuring of the gas at the households or at the borders, because this is a completely different issue?
На вимірювання газу поквартирно, тобто 100% облік в житлових будинках і 100% облік тепла на будинках теж, тобто споживачів.
I may speak, of course, on behalf of Slovakia, but I do believe that it was more or less on already that we have been joining the European Union. So it was well established prior to May the 2004 that we have joined the European Union. So it was a well established practice, and of course it is something which is very much connected to the energy efficiency, because you are paying only what you have been consumed, and that's the first, so to say, first check. With that, colleagues?
Well, I can only confirm this experience because it was actually the same practice in the Czech Republic. Well ahead of our EU entry, we have already started with measuring gas consumption measuring. So I would recommend to do it as a first step. Thank you.
It's going. Thanks so much. It was also a big issue in Poland. To what you said about that, the householder should decide from where and from whom, from what type of distribution system the gas or electricity should be delivered. And finally, after many years, I don't remember now exactly, but for many years, really, the consumer and individuals could choose both distributors of gas and even producer, but still the price of gas or electricity has two parts: the part of distribution and the price of the price for consuming the dose of gas. There is the proportion is around 50-50 in average flat, something like that. Also, still, it's not so. Of course, it's impossible to say that we shouldn't be naive that we will pay only for gas or electricity consumed. We should also pay for the distribution to the flats. It's a standing price for a month or year, but the proportion, average proportion between this average consumption of gas or electricity in Poland is now in Poland 50-50, something like that.
Thank you so much. Our Hungarian colleague.
If it is possible, I would like to answer this question in a more complex way. We have worked out a national energy strategy till 2030. Long-term targets in the energy policy and aims at answering the national and global challenges, taking into account the EU's energy-related efforts. I would like to emphasize that we are supporting the Šefčovič program, the Energy Union program, and we studied the details of this professional program, and our document identifies 5 crucial instruments. First, increasing energy savings and efficiency. Second, increasing the share of renewable energy sources. Third, maintaining nuclear electricity production in the long term. That's a very important priority in Hungary. 4, increasing the role of state in the energy markets. And 5, the integration of the Hungarian energy market into the European energy market. The EU's Energy Efficiency Directive requires EU member states to prepare national energy efficiency action plans. That's an obligatory for us, for the member of the European Union. In every 3 years, we have worked out this program for every 3 years and submit them to the European Commission. Hungary's third such plan was adopted by the government last year, at the end of last year. So we are approaching a complex solution. And we think that would be resultful to follow these European standards and the Hungarian specificity in this complex mood. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Please.
Thank you. Josef Badida, energy analyst from Slovakia. I heard from many speakers Nord Stream. We are here speaking about energy efficiency, but of course this is also the issue, and maybe other partners can reply. Especially Mr. Ludva, I have a question for you, because all V4 countries, plus some others, signed the letter against Nord Stream 2, I can call it, and saying that it has to comply with the European legislation. But there was some hesitation on the Czech side. We all know that Minister of Economy was not really in favor of this letter. So maybe can you tell us please more on this issue? What is Czech position, and how would it maybe develop in the future? Because you signed this V4 letter, but with hesitation. And maybe Ms. Zerkal, I would like to ask you, in which state is right now this plan for interconnector between Ukraine and Poland? Because there is a possibility to bring LNG in the future from Świnoujście. So what's the state of this project? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister.
Well, in this respect, since I'm not directly responsible for this energy issues, and I would like to approach it more from the professional than political point of view. I would like to call upon my colleague who is assistant to Special Government Envoy for Energy, Jitka Holubcová, and I would like to ask her to answer this question.
Thank you very much. When it comes, so I understand the question is Czech position about the Nord Stream 2, yes. And the
future development probably, because once you sign the letter, it's fine, but there was some hesitation. So maybe what would be development of this issue on the Czech side?
I see. You see, in this respect, I would like to recall the common V4 position about huge infrastructural projects. During our Czech presidency of the V4 countries, our ministries of energy have met in Ostrava, and they made a common statement saying that the transit of natural gas through Ukraine should be preserved in the long term. So this shows the commitment of all 4 countries in supporting Ukraine as an important transit partner for us, countries who rely on the Russian natural gas a lot. When it comes to Nord Stream 2, your question is very difficult. As you know, our country has not been openly voiced for or against Nord Stream 2. That is because we have to carefully assess all the pros and cons. Now, I have to tell you opinion of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because the Czech position is not openly debated yet. But we think that if Nord Stream 2 is built, it does not imply direct cut of the gas through Ukraine totally. This has never been said, and we cannot really count on this. That's first thing. Second thing is that you say, or I have heard opinions that Nord Stream 2 is a direct threat to the energy security of the region of Central and Eastern countries. I think this position or this opinion is very far stretched, because if you count on Nord Stream 2, you also count on this gas being sold on a German gas hub. That means that you do not have to care where this gas comes from, whether it's from Russia, Norway, Algeria. This gas is being traded as a gas, not geopolitically important. So this is what I can say about this. Of course, the Czech position will get openly communicated in a due time. I also would like to recall in this respect that the Czech Republic supports any huge infrastructure project that would help the region of Central and Eastern Europe. Today we have on board Nord Stream 2 and East String, so therefore if any of these projects is being built, we will support it. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Foreign Minister.
Okay, if I may add a few words on the Nord Stream 2, we actually see this project as a direct threat, and we treat it as a purely political project, and we put forward this issue not once in the different levels, and actually we even use such a format as our cooperation with energy community, and energy community supported Ukraine, and we sent our letter with complaint concerning incompliance of the project with the third energy package. Of course, we continue this discussion with the European Commission. However, we've been informed that at this stage, Commission is quite limited in its opportunity to interfere into the discussion, because this is now up to German regulator to decide whether in compliance or not with European Union legislation. As for the interconnectors, I may say that we are very much interested in a big rivers. This is our actually great idea, and we hope that this year will help us to start these big rivers, because here we are also very much depends on the position of the Slovak Republic, and actually with the Commission we also continue this dialogue in a different formats. With Poland we finalized the feasibility study on the interconnectors, and we also hope that this year will give us an opportunity to increase rivers floors. However, I may say that we are interested not only in the diversification of the gas flows, but also in diversification of the crude oil flows. And we also see an opportunity of Odessa-Brody pipeline. So that's are the topics which we are going to discuss with our colleagues.
Thank you so much. I love the magic of the number three, so possibly indeed the third and the last question. I see somebody to the left. Please.
Дякую. Тарас Галич, Громадська рада при Львівській облдержадміністрації. У мене є питання до пана Істона Миколи, якщо я не помиляю. При Львівській облдержадміністрації, так. У мене є питання до пана Істона Миколи. Ви сказали про те, що енергоаудит є основною складовою частиною енергоефективності. Питання таке. На якому рівні був здійснений енергоаудит в Угорщині? Це був державний чи муніципальний рівень? В який термін і наслідки цього енергоаудиту? Дякую.
Thank you for the question. That's very difficult to speak about the outcome because we are in the middle of this. Now we have lined the basis of that. I've mentioned the situation in respect the buildings, in respect the different subject of this program. Now we are in the middle of it, but we hope we will be able to save at least 30% of the energy demand with this program.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid we will have to close this session, but of course, again, the energy efficiency will be topic of the afternoon, and you will possibly see, shall I say in all modesty, even more expert panelists because, well, let's face it, the deputy foreign ministers typically are generalists who are not intimate with all the details. So I'm quite sure you will see people from the Visegrad 4 and Ukraine replacing us. So any further questions which might arise will be then, you will have the opportunity to pose to them. Thank you so much for your attention. See you soon.
Thank you.
So we should have now our own get-together, yes?
I think it's next door.
Yes, it is next door. Ste tormentor, však sa poviem, vy ste tormentor českých kolegov. Oni špeciálne na vás začnú uplatňovať zrušenie Schengenu. Budete mať zákaz vstupu do Českej republiky. Ale toto živé.
Dáte mi vysvětku? Já myslím, že ne, děkuju. To je samozřejmě velmi uživá otázka pro nás. Jo, je to daný geopolitickým umístěním našich zemí, že jo? To je škoda, no. Bylo by to na delší diskuzi. Mějte se.
Слухаю. Алло. Костянтин Гура. От, він, так. Так, Савчуком працюєте, так.
Сьогодні будете Савчуком.
Так.
Czy my mamy wstawać, czy możemy sobie siedzieć? Jak to będzie wyglądać?
Як то ліпше? Ліпше, це ж... Але.
Na zdjęciach lepiej wyjdę.
You have the control of the presentation there.
Я думаю, що в принципі почуватиме себе.
Absolutely. It's like right leg.
Так, це принципово.
No. It works. I think independently. Yeah.
Так, він є. Sorry? In accordance with this list. Do you have any objections? No.
I'm the last one. Okay.
Yeah. Before Lukasz.
Probably I would like to go sooner because I have like general introduction in there.
You were saying yesterday that
Yeah.
it would be a bit better if he was before us because he has some precise numbers of its programs and then you got more recommendations.
Okay.
So if you can introduce me first and then let other people.
After.
So,
What do you
yeah,
mean by
of
general
course.
introduction?
Here.
Joseph?
What do you mean by general introduction?
It's like charts and.
Oh, for all the countries.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Okay. Lukasz. Okay. Joseph? Róża?
For me it's fine
Susan.
at the end. I have a nice picture at the end. I've got a photo. I have one map.
I was compiling maps.
Тобто, наскільки я знаю, що Савчук мав виступати сьогодні. І завтра наступним словом.
The chart was the other way around than legend. So it doesn't. It's like confusing.
Шановні панове, за 3 хвилини ми розпочнемо. Attention please, 3 minutes. We will start.
We start for
1 minute. Mr. Duleva is our accelerator. Okay. Шановні пані і панове, дозвольте розпочати нашу дискусійну панель. Я попрошу всіх взяти приладдя для перекладу, хто цього потребує. Мене звати Михайло Гончар. Я керівник Центру глобалістики «Стратегія 21», Київ. Буду модерувати цю дискусійну панель. Наш центр є одним із інституційних партнерів цього заходу. Ми з вами прослухали доволі цікаві місцями виступи представників країн Вишеградської групи. Оскільки я практично з минулого тисячоліття, працюючи на різних посадах в системі Ради національної безпеки і оборони України, в нафтогазовому секторі, якраз, можна сказати, працював в форматі Вишеград 4 плюс Україна. Тому подія, яка сьогодні відбувається у Львові і завтра продовжуватиметься, безперечно, є дуже важливою з точки зору того, як конкретизувати співпрацю. Ми виходимо з того, що потрібно досягти мікрорівня, тоді буде результат. Коли все обмежується тільки на рівні міждержавному, міжурядовому, це добре, але цього недостатньо. І тому звідси така наша спільна ініціатива, спільно з нашим словацьким партнером, дослідницьким центром Словацької асоціації зовнішньої політики щодо проєкту, масштабного проєкту доволі, з передачі досвіду енергоефективності Словацької Республіки і країн Вишеградської групи для України. Офіційні спікери відзначали важливість проблематики енергетичної безпеки. Так от, якщо ми візьмемо цю проблематику, то питання енергоефективності, енергозаощадження займають практично ключові позиції. Україна традиційно, на жаль, була енергомарнотратною країною. Зараз ми бачимо певну трансформацію, тому що, безперечно, не можуть не радувати цифри, коли, наприклад, ще 3 роки тому назад обсяг споживання газу річний становив понад 50 мільярдів кубічних метрів, а за підсумками минулого року трошки менше 34, то, безперечно, це не може не радувати, але разом з тим ми розуміємо чудово, що це результат падіння промислового виробництва значною мірою. А хотілося б, щоб це був результат запровадження заходів з енергоефективності і енергозаощадження. Однак, я думаю, що про це краще скажуть наші сьогоднішні спікери. Всі вони знані в своїй сфері, всі вони добре розуміються на проблематиці кожної з своїх країн – Польщі, Угорщини, Чеської Республіки, Словаччини. Всі вони вболівають за Україну. І я не можу не сказати, з приємністю не відзначити те, що, наприклад, присутній тут Олександр Дулеба разом з своїми друзями, колегами кілька днів тому назад прийняли таку спільну декларацію словацько-чеську чи чешсько-словацьку на підтримку України з чіткою ідентифікацією того, що Україна – це частина західної цивілізації. Себто унікальність ситуації полягає в тому, що Олександр, його колеги намагаються і політично бути солідарними з Україною, і намагаються робити дуже практичні, прикладні кроки для України. Тому в цьому плані ми дуже вдячні Словацькій Республіці, всім вишеградцям, Польщі, Чехії, Угорщині, які зараз солідарні з нами. І в цьому плані, безперечно, що наш захід, він, власне, є продовженням вже того, що ми започаткували минулого року, коли присутні тут колеги приїздили до Києва і проводили спеціальні семінари для державних службовців, центральних органів виконавчої влади. Частина з них присутні сьогодні тут. Це була стартова позиція. Тепер ми продовжуємо далі. Чому сьогодні ми захотіли спільно з нашими вишеградськими колегами зібрати тут передусім мерів, представників місцевої влади нашого західного регіону? Тому що це, як я вже відзначав, ми бачимо в цьому якраз важливість переходу на ось цей локальний рівень, мікрорівень. Не чекати, поки у Києві вирішаться якісь там фундаментальні проблеми. Працювати на цьому рівні, і це дуже важливо. Звичайно, було б ідеально, коли б центральна влада приймала вчасно необхідні законопроекти, нормативно-правові акти. На жаль, так не є, але сподіваюся, так буде колись. Тому в даному випадку ми не винаходимо український велосипед. Проблеми, які ми маємо вирішити, наші вишеградські партнери вирішували там 10-15 років тому назад практично. Ну, швидше, я би сказав, наприкінці минулого, початку нинішнього тисячоліття. Вони їх вирішили значною мірою. Вони наробили теж немало помилок, наступали на граблі. Тепер нам важливо, щоб ми не наступали на ті ж самі граблі. Тому звідси, якби ідея пов'язана з тим, щоб максимально досвід країн Вишеградської групи був переданий для України і не якось абстрактно, а дуже конкретно. Від містечка до містечка. В цьому плані важлива синергія зусиль. І ми просто намагаємось її, ну так скажемо, спровокувати в позитивному значенні цього слова. Я не хотів бути надто багатослівним. Хочу, щоб більше говорили наші сьогоднішні спікери. Враховуючи те, що у нас є доволі достатньо часу, практично 2 години, я запропонував би наступний алгоритм. Це до 15 хвилин для доповіді кожного з учасників. Можливі потім короткі уточнюючі запитання-відповіді, якщо щось потрібно буде уточнити. Після того, як спікери зроблять свої доповіді, ми послухаємо наших коментаторів. Сьогодні у нас гарний склад коментаторів також. І потім ми спробуємо подискутувати. Ви можете задавати будь-які свої питання, чи можете надіслати якусь записку, чи краще просто в режимі діалогу. Звісна справа, що я думаю, що за ці 2 години ми зможемо обмінятися деякими спірними думками. У мене, наприклад, є одна така річ, яка не дає мені спокою з точки зору того, що є чимало ініціатив, дійсно, які і направлені нібито на енергоефективність, але які можуть дати ефект, який буде далекий від бажаного. Про це я скажу дещо пізніше. Я думаю, що хтось в процесі дебатів це питання підніме. А зараз я хотів перейти безпосередньо до нашої програми. В зв'язку з тим, що із-за справ державної ваги, скажімо так, не зміг прибути до нас і приєднатись голова Державної агенції з питань енергоефективності пан Савчук, то сьогодні Савчуком працюватиме Костянтин Гура, який відповідає за міжнародні відносини. І дуже важливо, тобто Держенергоефективності з нами, воно нас не полишило. Але питання енергоефективності, вони вирішуватимуться перш за все у вас. Як він може розказати і порадити, але я думаю, що ви самі теж знаєте, що потрібно зробити. Синергія зусиль буде тоді, коли центральні органи влади і на місці будуть діяти спільно. Тому, пане Костянтине, я надаю вам ваші 15 хвилин для доповіді. Отже, прошу.
Okay. Hello, dear colleagues. So my name is Konstantin Hura, and I am representing here the State Agency of Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving. So just to start, I would like to mention that today the energy independence is a matter of the national security for Ukraine. So, of course, the agency and the government of Ukraine working very hard on the questions of energy efficiency improvement and renewable energies implementation. So now one of the key priority issues for Ukrainian energy is the natural gas replacement. So you see that we reach pretty big success anyhow, and we reduce the natural gas consumption within the years 2013 to 2014 on 25% due to, let's say, administrative measures. So it's around 5.8 billion cubic meters of gas. Also, we are working on the replacement of the energy facilities which produces the heat energy, and now we prefer to use that facilities which not using the natural gas but use the fossil fuels, and already replaced within 2014 and 2015 1.2 gigawatts of that kind of heat capacities. So now I would go a little bit deep into details and talk about renewable energy sector of Ukraine. So it's important to say that now in Ukraine adopted the National Action Plan on renewable energy until 2020. It goes in line with the EU Directive number 28, and the aim of that plan is to share the energy which goes from renewables on the level of 11% till 2020. In 2014, it was 4%. So, of course, it's a very ambitious task, but I would say that we have very fixed parameters. So we are working, so I mean that we have a very good plan. That should be reached through the improvements in power generation, in heating and cooling systems, in transportations as well. Totally, it's planned to supplement 8.6 million tons of oil equivalent per year, and that corresponds roughly to 10 billion cubic meters of natural gas per year also. So, in one hand, it's very challenging, but on another hand, it's clear that Ukraine have a very good potential for that. The total amount of potential, let's say, corresponds to 98 million tons of coal equivalent. Or if you talk in the natural gas volume, it's around 84 billion cubic meters of natural gas. So it's huge, it's really huge potential. In each region, you can see on the chart that potential exists. So for that, we also calculated the volume of market, because every measures, they driven by the market laws. We know that now around the market, to get the targets of the national plan, we should invest around 16 billion of euros within electricity, heating and cooling, and transportation. So it's clear that really that is a big market, and it should be attractive for international also investors. So, as I told, we are looking for investments, we are looking for international cooperation. So just to show you that now it's good conditions to start business in renewables in Ukraine, I would show you several examples of such kind of projects. For example, Botyevska wind power station, which operates in Ukraine with installed capacity of 200 megawatts. The total investments was around 340 million euros in that station. And that important to say is that now the green tariff is fixed, and it's fixed accordingly to euro. So now it's 11.3 euro cents per kilowatt hour. Another case, it's the heat power production. Here is example of heat thermal capacities. It's small plant which use boilers. Total capacity of boilers is 7.6 megawatts. That is in Kamenets-Podilsky. It's already operated and gives a heating for hospital, clinic, and medical college in the town. This project allow to save more 20 million of hryvnias per year using biomass and not using the natural gas. Another case for the project, it's the energy crop growing. Already some companies working in this field, that is Bio project, that is Salix Energy. Oops, sorry. That is Salix Energy also. So the question is, or the case is that in Ukraine now existing a lot of marginal lands which are not applicable for building, for example, or for growing of some vegetables or something, but it's good for growing of energy willows. So it's also good investment opportunity for international investments. Now I would show you the example of biogas plant, which called Ore Leader, that name of the company. The total capacity of the plant is 5.5 megawatts, and it could produce green electricity as well heat power. That plant working on chicken manure and can use different organic wastes. So to facilitate, let's say, calculations, our specialists provide some draft and sample project. So that is a project which presents the financial model for building a heat power station that uses the biomass as fuels. It produced as heat power as electricity, both. The payback period is 3.5 years within the date of commissioning. So it's pretty good number for investors. Also, it's important to say that the market of solar electricity which produced in households grow very large. As you can see, within 2014-2015 years, it goes up 10 times. So if in 2014 that was only 21 households, now it's 244 households. So I think that it's clear that renewable sector is attractive for investors. But anyhow, I would like to show you that Ukrainian side also working on the law base. For example, due to the last laws, the local content which was required was cancelled. So now that means that you can use, to build every power station, you can use equipment which comes from Europe, from America, or from over the world. So you don't need to buy the Ukrainian-only equipment. So that's good, I think. Also, which was important, is that the green tariff are fixed in euro. So investors don't care about fluctuations of euro to hryvnia or hryvnia to dollar or something. So another sphere which is important for Ukraine is energy efficiency. We also have the energy efficiency action plan till 2020. Due to that plan, the 9% of final energy consumption in Ukraine should go down on 9%, or this is 6.5 million tons of oil equivalent. So on the chart, you can see the spread between the household sector, the transport, the services, including public sector and industry. And here you can see that household sector takes 50%, so that it's very big. So to get the targets of the National Action Plan of Energy Efficiency, we should improve the energy efficiency in household sector on 50%. That will be enough to get the targets. Let's talk about a little bit the amount of investments which need in this sector. So now in Ukraine, there is around 80,000 residential buildings which more than 5 floors, and 6.5 million of individual houses. The total investments, of course, depends on that how deep renovate your house, but normally we assume that it should be from 40 billion of euro to 80 billion of euro. So it's also very, very, very big market. So we think how to open the market, and already Ukraine took some steps to improve the energy efficiency in residential sector. We provided some state support, and within this state support, the state compensates the part of the principal loans which go to the thermal modernization of the houses. I would say that this program pretty new. It starts in the end of 2014, and at the moment we have the very good dynamic, and 1.3 billion of euros of loans was already issued. 1.3 billion of hryvnias, it's around 50 million of euros. But I would say that within my previous slide, the market very big, very huge. It's billions of euros. So now the agency working on the energy efficiency fund, which could create the possibility for international financial organizations and institutions to invest into Ukraine. So we expect that it will work or in the end of this year or in the next year, but it should be. So how existing state program working? It's very simple, so that's good. If someone would like to receive a loan for energy modernization, so some person or a household association should go in the bank. There he provides some documents and receives the loan. Then banks forward the information to state agency, and after state agency from the budget compensates the principal part of the loan. Normally it works from 20 to 40%, but we have some cases where it's 70% for people who receive the subsidies, the household subsidies. So we provide reimbursement for several measures, which is heat pumps installation, solar thermal collectors installation, replacement of the windows, the doors, etc., etc. Another case that Ukraine takes some steps to improve energy efficiency in public sector. So in the April of 2015, the Parliament of Ukraine adopted several laws on energy performance contracting. So now the private business could invest in energy efficiency activities in public buildings. Approximately the volume of the market on the level of 4 billion euros. So now we are working on that questions to open the market, and we will provide financial mechanism how it will work. So I think that I hope that Ukrainian reforms in the spheres of energy efficiency and energy saving have attracted your interest. We are very open-minded. We are a very open-minded country, and we know that Vishegrad's countries already pass the same or the different steps, but the steps in energy efficiency and renewable and energy improvement. So we are welcome for your investments. We are welcome for your experience. So we are looking forward for cooperation. Thank you.
Дякую, пане Костянтине. Спасибі, ви точно вклалися в 15-хвилинний відтинок. Ви зробили гарний опис, звичайно, з орієнтацією на наших зарубіжних колег. Дякую. Я одночасно би закликав представників місцевих громад подумати над одним питанням, і коли ми почнемо дискусію, задати панові Костянтинові, як вами оцінюється ефективність роботи Держенергоефективності? На що потрібно заакцентувати увагу з вашої точки зору місцевої? Це важливо для того, щоб ми розуміли, де ми знаходимось і куди ми рухаємось в цілому. Тому готуйте питання. Є якісь уточнення по ходу доповіді у когось? Потреба? Прошу, якщо коротко, якщо без коментарів, а просто уточнення. Обговорення буде пізніше. Потім, все, добре, добре. Уточнення, будь ласка. Так. Мікрофон. У кого мікрофон? Прошу через мікрофон, для того, щоб перекладачі вас чули.
Дякую. Пане Костянтине, я хотів уточнити у вас наступне питання. Ви назвали про зменшення об'ємів споживання газу 25%. Чи це стосується всієї території України, чи за рахунок того, що частина території відійшла і ми ці не обліковуємо? От таке уточнення. Дякую.
Так, я відкрию слайд. Так, ну ця інформація в порівнянні, ну це споживання енергії в секторі домогосподарств та цьому private. Ось, і ми порівнювали ті самі області, тобто коли ми говорили про 2013 рік, ми не враховували ті області, які зараз окуповані.
Якщо уточнення, будь ласка.
Ви назвали, що до 2020 року Україна планує збільшити нетрадиційні джерела до 11%. Чи можете назвати, скільки сьогодні становить цей відсоток на сьогоднішній день? Дякую.
Сьогодні близько 5-6%.
Добре. Дякую, пане Костянтине. Рухаємось далі. Пан Гура показав для наших колег таку панорамну картину, що в Україні з підходами до енергоефективності, альтернативної енергетики. Я думаю, що наступному нашому спікерові, а це буде пан Лукаш Легоцький, буде можливість не тільки розповісти про чеські підходи, в даному випадку він представляє наших чеських партнерів, але і, можливо, позначити те, ті напрямки чи ті вектори, в яких можна було би уникнути ось того наступання на граблі, про які я говорив. До того ж, пан Легоцький спробує сформувати загальну картину європейських підходів. Він був у нас одним з лекторів на семінарах у Києві, представляючи досвід Чеської Республіки. Отже, пане Лукаш, прошу вас.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to participate in this seminar, and I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. I will try to fit in my 15 minutes. Just a disclaimer at the beginning of my speech. I want to say that energy efficiency as such is very dependent on the goal you want to achieve. Energy efficiency is not a goal itself. Energy efficiency is basically a means how to achieve some goals. And it's very good to note that in Czech Republic, the goal of energy efficiency or goal of implementation of energy efficiency policies is to increase the competitiveness of Czech Republic compared to other countries. This is different goal from Ukrainian goal, which is more oriented on security of supply. And therefore, the measures that are implemented are different and are tailored accordingly to these goals you are trying to achieve. For example, in other countries of Europe, energy efficiency is more about environmental policies or more about eradicating fuel poverty and many other different goals which are achieved through energy efficiency. In my presentation, I am going to talk about two parts or two key issues. Firstly, I want to talk briefly about energy efficiency in the context of European Union as such, and then I will look at energy efficiency of Czech Republic itself. Let me start with the look on the measurement of energy efficiency in Europe. It's not seemingly working. Okay. Sorry. This is a chart based on Eurostat data, which is the most current. This is the comparison of energy intensity, which is a basic indicator used for measuring energy efficiency, where you have a reference country. This is a relative chart, so you have reference country, which is Ireland, which has the lowest energy intensity in the European Union, and you have a comparison of other countries to the energy intensity of Ireland. You can see the green arrow points to the Czech Republic. Czech Republic has the third highest energy intensity in the European Union overall. This is based on Eurostat data from 2013, most current data. The newer data is not available. And the interesting thing is that Czech Republic, the energy intensity is 4.2, 4.3 times higher than the energy intensity of Ireland as such. What is even more interesting, when we put this data on the map and when we chart them, here you have the visualization of European Union and the data you've seen in the bar chart, and you can clearly see that there's a divide between East and West along the line, along the frontier of former Iron Curtain. So you can see that countries of former Eastern Bloc, or many of the countries of former Eastern Bloc, are worse in terms of energy intensity than countries of the Western Bloc. I have another slide which points to this data and is based on this data. And this slide shows the change of energy intensity from year 2007, when this is the last pre-crisis year, and to year 2013, and how the energy intensity changed compared to total final consumption. So you can see how the energy intensity decreased on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis you can see how the consumption as such decreased. You can see that Czech Republic made an improvement, and many countries made an improvement. Only Estonia was the country where energy intensity actually decreased, so it was less energy, it was more energy intensive in year 2013 and less energy intensive in 2017. Otherwise, the downwards arrow point to the fact that the energy intensity was decreasing overall in Europe. But you can see that Czech Republic still did not make it, or the energy intensity is still high even after the crisis. It's important to point to the fact that energy intensity itself is not the only indicator of energy efficiency, because energy intensity means that it measures how many euros are produced per 1 unit of energy, or conversely, how many units of energy are necessary to produce 1 euro of GDP. So this means that if there was a crisis, energy intensity could decrease because of the shrinkage of the GDP as such, or actually in some countries it increased due to the shrinkage of the GDP because the fixed costs were still present in terms of production of energy, but the GDP decreased. So I want to point out to another set of data, which is, I'm sorry, yes. This is the data based on another survey from the database of Odyssey Muir, and this was the project to measure actual energy efficiency in the European countries, and they include climatic corrections in their data, so they adjust the data according to an averaged European climate, so you don't have differences in the data when you compare Portugal or Greece, which are in much warmer climate than Nordic countries. They also include the different indexation of industry, so they try to level out the differences and structural differences in the data. And from if you count on these data, you can see that energy intensity or differences in energy intensity in European countries is lower than shown in the indicators of Eurostat, but still you can see that the divide between East and West is present. If we look at the visualization of that data on the bar chart, you can see that Czech Republic is somewhere in the second third of the countries when we look at the data of Odyssey Muir. It's important to note that this is the data for 2012 because 2013 data were not available from the Odyssey Muir project. And you can see on the top of the chart that Romania, even 2012 data was missing, so we don't have Romania included in that. So this is the situation we are talking about in European countries. This is the situation for the Czech Republic we are talking about. So when we look at the policies and what is implemented, as was already mentioned, there's energy efficiency directive in place already in European countries. This is the main legal document from the European Union on which the energy efficiency policies are based on. Ukraine is also implementing this directive through the energy community, as far as I know. And there are people who are actually implementing this directive in this room. The key part of the energy efficiency directive is that countries in European Union should save at least 1.5% of energy, of final annual sales of energy to customers. So this is the main goal of European Union. This is in line with Europe 2020 agenda, which said that at least 20% of energy should be saved by year 2020. And the key measure how to achieve this should be energy efficiency obligation scheme. The energy efficiency obligation scheme is a scheme which is based on a Danish model and is implemented in Denmark. And it expects that the energy distributors or retail energy sales companies would be the ones who provide savings of energy. So it would not be government who would sponsor that, but it would be actually the companies that sell energy to customers who deliver savings. This was not agreed across the Europe, and many countries had reservations against this. So in the efficiency directive, then when it was negotiated, there is a provision which allows countries to achieve similar savings through other measures, and this is called alternative scheme. And I have another map visualization, and here you can see that the red ones are the obligation scheme countries, or countries who implement the obligation schemes. The light green one countries are the countries which implement the alternative scheme, means that political measures are taken in order to achieve efficiency. And the dark green countries are the countries who implement the mix of these measures. And now I'm proceeding to the discussion of the Czech policies themselves. Czech Republic implemented the alternative scheme from 5 reasons. We've identified 5 reasons. It's one of the foremost and most important reasons were to avoid increase in prices for end users. So Czech political establishment wanted to prevent increase of prices based on which would happen due to companies being obliged to implement energy efficiency. And other reasons were that Czech Republic wanted to incorporate existing programs, maintain the governmental oversight, utilize European financing and European Social Fund and Cohesion Fund up to the year 2020. And one of the last reasons were to avoid the risk of implementation of unknown scheme, where energy obligation scheme was never implemented in Czech Republic before, so Czech representation wanted to avoid to start implementing something which was completely new in the region. As mentioned in the previous presentation, there is also National Energy Efficiency Action Plan in Czech Republic. The only thing I want to mention here is that National Energy Efficiency Action Plan expects that there will be a 47.78 petajoules of energy savings in year 2020, and it will annually add, so Czech Republic would annually add 6.83 petajoules of energy savings. So this will result in 47.78 petajoules at the end in the year 2020. As I'm running out of time, I will skip talk about measures and resources. Measures and resources, of course, these are operational programs from European Union. These are domestic sources, which largely come from budget and from selling emission allowances, and then energy savings and energy services and legal measures. And I want to focus on the last slide, which is the potential risks of state-managed efficiency measures. And I will be a bit more critical than previous speakers from Czech Republic at this point. I want to say that the main risks which are connected with state-sponsored or state-managed efficiency measures are that the motivation and the motivation mechanisms which appear and which are state-sponsored may be on one side, inefficient, so they will not motivate or bring sufficient motivation for end users to participate and ask for subsidies, or on the other hand, maybe overly generous and will end up in unexpected outcomes. The combination of these two happened in the scheme called Green Savings in Czech Republic, when in 2009, firstly, there was not a sufficient interest in the scheme, so the management of the fund opened the scheme for another actors, and then it ended up that there was a large run on the program, ending up with 2.77 billion of Czech crowns in requests from projects where there was not sufficient funding. The scheme was stopped, and then for the next 2 years, the government was trying to find sources to cover the already accepted projects. Since then, this was probably partly because of mismanagement. In the 1.5 years of the program, there were 7 ministers of environment in that time who were responsible for this, and other types of mismanagement. But this is the risk, that you either may have very generous scheme and end up with large demand, or on the other hand, end up with low demand and not implementing energy savings. This also leads to another problem, where there is a question whether savings will be achieved over time. If there is no sufficient demand for the measures, then the savings will not be achieved throughout the period. The last point I want to mention is another problem with government-sponsored and especially European-sponsored programs, is that they are late. The savings were supposed to come since 2014, and you saw on the step chart that since 2014, Czech Republic was supposed to add new savings. However, because the main majority of savings come from European funded schemes, the European funded schemes, because they are late and they were only opened in late 2015, and some measures are not even open yet, there were almost no savings added from European sources in years 2014, 2015. And this is a problem for Czech Republic, where you can see that these savings, this will result in lower energy savings throughout the whole period till 2020. And this is a problem for Czech Republic, which it needs to solve in order to meet its targets from National Energy Efficiency Action Plan from 2014. And this is the issue that will be probably very much reflected in the revision of the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan, which is going to be presented in 2017. That's everything from me now at that point. Thank you for your attention, and I would like to answer your question throughout the question session.
Дякую, пане Лукаше. Ви були доволі критичними стосовно Чеської Республіки. Поглянемо, наскільки буде критичним до власної країни і досягнень представник Словаччини. Я прошу до слова пана Йозефа Бадіду.
Dobrý deň, šanovní paní i pánové. V načale ja bych chtěl poděkovat i organizátorům za zaprošení i za прогулку в місті Львов. Мені должно сказати, що Львов мені подобається. Це місто з багатою історією і дуже гарне. And now I will switch to English because I will speak about more professional and technical things. Which way it works? Probably not. Down and up. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So, excuse me, sorry. My company is based in Bratislava, EPV, and we focus on analysis, market analysis of energy in Slovakia and the European Union. We are sometimes hired by some Brussels law offices to review the assessment of EU law in Slovakia. So we review the implementation of European legislation. We also organize events to promote energy efficiency, renewables, and sustainable mobility in my country. And also we operate a website on energy, quite popular, called epv.sk. That's for the beginning to know. Okay. My colleague was quite clear on legislation. So I'm not going to repeat all the obligations, but I would like to share with you my experience and observation from this sector, energy sector in Slovakia. Everybody makes mistakes, and you have a possibility to learn from our mistakes, from ours. So I would like to start with heating, because I'm sure you know, out of all energy costs, heating represents majority. Around 80% of all our costs are covered by heating. And it's also the biggest energy sector in the European Union because it covers 50% of all energy consumed in the EU. It used to be in Slovakia in this way. There was no motivation for occupants, for tenants to save energy, because heat was charged based on floor area. So everybody paid the same amount per square meter in the same condominium in the same city. But of course, with these energy efficiency measures implemented, the situation changed, and we try to motivate people to think about the energy, to think about the potential savings of energy, of heat, and money, of course, at the end. I'm sure you know about all these possibilities, like renovation of buildings, meaning walls, roofs, windows, exchange of windows, doors, insulation of pipes. It's also adjustment of heating systems, very easily installation of thermostatic valves on radiator to regulate your heating. And of course, very important are installations of heat meters. Why? Because then you can really measure what amount of energy, what amount of heat is provided to each of us, to each owner of flat. Because I'm speaking about, in this case, of multifamily buildings. But we have to realize one thing about the heat in these buildings, that there are heat transfers. It means that temperature or heat from a warmer flat is also coming physically to the flat of lower temperature. We have to think about this. And for sure, there are, in every buildings, there are flats which are the most exposed to the external walls. There are flats which are in contact with the ground, and they are in this unfavorable location, meaning they have to consume more than others because they have bigger heat losses. That issue we solved in Slovakia by introduction of correction factors. It means that flat heat meter of flat which is the most exposed doesn't pay the same amount of the tariff, the same tariff for the consumed heat than others, which are, for example, in the middle of the building. But there are still some problems which are not solved yet, and I'm afraid they won't be so easily. And these are heat transfer between flats with, I would say, speculative owners and also privileged condominiums of flats. For explanation, look at this picture. If everyone is using the same temperature, is having the same temperature around 22, 25 Celsius degrees, there would not be any problem. But what happened after introduction of these heat meters in Slovakia is that suddenly, of course, flats in the middle are in advantage, and the owners, sometimes, they switch off their heat meters. They decide deliberately to reduce their heat demand. Of course, others have to pay more because heat is coming from the surrounding flats into their flat. This issue is not easily solved because you cannot ask, or you can ask anyone, behave like we do, but it's our own responsibility. Another problem are condominiums. What happened again in Slovakia is that we divided our buildings into condominiums. So it's not one condominium, one community, but there are 3 condominiums. And again, condominiums on each side, they are most exposed. They have to pay more because they have higher heat losses. But they are separated heat meters, meaning the condominium in the middle, they pay their own heat, or they pay their own bill for lower demand, for lower heat than the rest on the edges. Again, problem because we have 3 meters. If there is 1 problem meter in the building, there will be no this problem. So how do we finance energy efficiency in buildings? I was speaking about this renovation and insulations. We have a State Housing Development Fund, which is sponsored by state, and each year they have around 100 million euro. This money are lended to communions, and then, of course, they get money back by some payback period, and they can lend them again. But last year we were, I would say, lucky or unlucky, I don't know, you can say. In 2015, we increased this budget by an additional 233 million euro, but not because we have additional money, but because we were unused. We were not able to use European funds. So we just decided to put them into this special budget, this special fund, and now in 2016, flats can ask for higher, or more flats can ask for these loans. This state fund offers soft loans. It means that if you make combination of measures, you can even get zero interest. And this year it was introduced also a new possibility. If you are very strict with your energy efficiency and you follow very strict terms, you can your principal can be even reduced. But the problem is, usually another practical problem in Slovakia is that people they always follow or look for the lowest price, and they underestimate, for example, energy audit. With energy audit, you ask professional to consider your building. You ask him for proposal how to increase your energy efficiency. He can calculate your investment and payback period. But usually Slovak people and Slovak flats owners, they don't ask for this energy audits. They go directly to the second step, to the construction engineer, who is not so much interested in these energy issues, and he just brings, he has some normalized, structured ideas, and he prepares a construction project according to him without these energy audits. And what we also underestimate, especially another of money, is building inspection. That again, that's probably the most important person defending ours on the construction. It's the guy who should really keep eyes on the quality, how this construction is done, how this renovation is done. People again underestimate this, and at the end we see that the realization of renovations are not in as quality as we want. So don't make the same mistake. These loans are offered also to individual single houses, but they're not interested. They're not really interested. They do it on their own. Usually they make their own self-renovation. Quality check is missing. Of course, they at the end also they don't pay value-added tax, so also there's a problem or missing money in the state budget at the end. So that's the practical problem of our loaning system. Last year, there were two new programs introduced in Slovakia, especially for households. First one is a special grant, so no loan, but a really grant possibly given to family houses, to motivate them to renovate according to rules. Because we have rules, but if you do it on your own, you just don't care. But if you want to get this kind of grant, you have to follow very strict rules. It has to be done, this renovation, by licensed companies, by materials which really comply with European standards. There has to be construction project documentation, energy certificate at the end of the project. And the maximum amount which can be given, because it's a really donation to households, is 6,500 euro per house. It's the maximum. This project, or first appliers can apply on the 16th of March, so we don't know yet how it works in practice yet. The second grant, which was introduced also last year in Slovakia, is grant for household to purchase renewable energy sources. There is a possibility to get from state money, again, donation for heating pumps, solar collectors, boilers for biomass. So no loans, but really real money. This is partially funded by European Union funds and also by state budget. What is good on this project is that it's not just you ask, you buy, whatever you buy. No, again, you have to follow strict rules. You can buy only gadgets, facilities which are approved by a state authority. I think something similar like here in Ukraine, this Innovation and Energy Agency. And prioritized are people or buildings which realize energy savings. It's very important at first to do energy savings, afterwards to change your heating system. Because if you don't do it, you will still consume a lot of heat. Okay, the problem of district heatings, I think it's very similar in Ukraine and in Slovakia, because in the whole this former Eastern Bloc, we have quite a dense system of district heatings. In Slovakia, these systems supply heat to 1.8 million people, and it means around 30% of heat consumption in Slovakia. But for the last 20 years, their life is not so easy, I would say, because due to these energy efficiency measures, of course, heat consumption is decreasing, so their heat supply is decreasing as well. But the biggest problem is that it was possible in Slovakia to disconnect from these district heating systems. For the last 20 years, it was mainly firms, industrial companies, and for the last few years also households, owners of multi-flat buildings, they ask for their own boilers. They would like to build their own boilers in their flats. But district heating has a huge potential. They can integrate renewable energy sources. I am sure tomorrow we will hear about biomass heat district, a district heating system. They could be quite flexible because they can store a lot of heat. That's not, of course, the case of individual heating systems in our houses. 2 minutes. But problem is that in Slovakia we didn't protect, or we haven't been protecting this district heating system enough. In the municipalities like you are here, mayors, in Slovakia there is a possibility to prepare strategy where you can protect this district heating, and in some way you can prevent these disconnections. It was not used at all, or usually, what I know. And another problem is that there is no economical really reasoning, good behind reasoning for this district heating system, because gas distribution tariff between small pipeline and huge pipeline going to district heating is not so advantageous for big companies in comparison with the small multi-family flats. Instead of this economical reasoning or economical protection, we introduced 2 years ago legislative or law preventing disconnections. But of course, it's legal, and people are asking why I cannot make my own boiler in my house if it's cheaper. That's the problem, because there is no economic sense behind, not good enough, and it creates a lot of tensions, unfortunately. So maybe there will be a situation also in Ukraine that individual companies would like to introduce their own heating. The last minute and the last slide, we already heard about energy performance contracting, but I'm not sure whether everybody knows about it. So please, small enquete, raise your hand if you ever heard about energy performance contracting and you know about this, please. So not so many people know about this. It's quite innovative solution. It works pretty well in the USA. We would like to introduce it as much as possible in the EU, but it's still at the beginning. You know that public assets needs also renovation, but public budgets are limited, for sure. And in this case, it could be a business opportunity for some investors. Investor can make, instead of municipality, can invest his money or his money into some kind of energy savings. You as a municipality, for example, to the hospital, you will pay less for the energy demand of this hospital. Partial of the money will be given back to this investor, and after this payment period, all savings are yours. So it's good opportunity for private investors and also good opportunity for municipalities. Not for everything, of course, not for everything, but it's a chance. What we did in Slovakia, for example, last year, and I don't like it pretty much, is that, again, we had a lot of money of unused EU funds. So instead of supporting these EPC contracts in lighting, exchange of modernization of lighting in municipalities, we deformed this market and we pour directly money from EU funds into these municipalities. This money could be used for something different, and lighting could be changed by these EPC contracts and by these companies, but not we had a lot of money and had to use it. So if you have a lot of money, or once you have a lot of money, take care how you use them. That's also another recommendation. And we are at the end. Thank you very much for your attention. Ďakujem.
Дякую, пане Бадіда, за ваш деталізовану презентацію. Дійсно, ви зробили бліц-опитування. Ті, хто підняв руки, це були колеги з Державного агентства по енергоефективності в основному. Тому це дуже добре, що вони обізнані з цією проблематикою, отже, маємо майбутнє. Час іде, тому я хотів би відразу без жодних коментарів надати слово для пані Жужани Пато, яка зробить аналіз з позиції угорського досвіду. Прошу, пані Жужана.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Zsuzsanna Pato. I'm coming from Budapest, and I always forget to put the first slide about my organization, but I will try to say something about it. REC is Regional Center for Energy Policy Research. It's a small independent research center, self-financing, working inside the university, Corvinus University of Economics. We are dealing with Hungarian issues, we are dealing with Southeast European issues and also EU-level issues. We are doing a lot of modeling. We have a wholesale market model for gas and electricity for the whole EU, and we are doing assessment of energy infrastructure projects. And I don't manage. Yes. So being further down the line of speakers, some of the slides has already been discussed by the other speakers. I don't want to go very much into the details then. I would like to give you one statement about Hungary. Whatever is done in Hungary about energy efficiency and also renewable energy is driven by the EU. So we are not so good without the EU, but with the EU there is a huge push, and our public administration does what it has to do. So, as you all know, the EU has goals for 2020 and 2030, and there are a few major pieces of legislation, and I don't want to go into the details, but the key one is the Energy Efficiency Directive. It has been discussed before. This directive is a very unique directive because it's a horizontal one. It brings together a lot of issues related to potential energy savings, and it's a key vehicle in the EU for the 2020 goals. And I don't know how I managed. Yes, and then back. No. How can I go back? No. Okay, so why do we have the EED? Probably you are aware of this graph. It shows the primary energy consumption projections for the whole EU, and it shows the 2020 energy savings target. And what you see is a gap between, well, but then latest projection and the target. And what you see there, that's one dot, it's the aggregate target notified by the member states. So what you see that what the member states pledged to save or to reach in terms of primary energy savings is almost there, but not there. This is a very nice chart, substituting 3 or 4 slides I've done before. It's from the Energy Coalition, and it gives you an overview of the directive. Whatever is in blue, that's related to setting a target. So there is the EU target, and there are the national targets to be set. Whatever is in orange, these are the issues, the vehicles of implementations required by certain articles of the directive. And what is really important, that continuous reviewing and monitoring should be done by the member states, because it's very important to see how the plans materialize. Sometimes they don't materialize in a way they are planned. So what you see, I just give you some examples. I don't want to go through all the articles, is the role of the public sector. This is a key thing. Basically, it's about the renovation of public buildings and about public procurement, and I'll show you how it is done in Hungary. The other key article is about energy efficiency obligation schemes and alternative measures. It has been discussed by the previous speaker. And also an important issue targeting companies is the energy audit requirements. Okay, this has been already shown. This is the use of energy efficiency obligation scheme in the various member states. So what you see is that the majority of the member states will try to use it. Only 4 will use it exclusively, some will use it in combination. It's very important to emphasize that energy efficiency obligation schemes are not borne by the EED. There were 5 countries using this system before the EED: Italy, UK, Denmark, France, and also Belgium. So there is a lot of experience already collected before the EED introduced this obligation. And now I would like to turn to Hungary. This is the final energy use from 1990 by sectors. What you see 1990 and 1992 is whatever you see in all Central and Eastern European countries is the collapse of the former industrial economy. And I would like to draw your attention to the households' final energy use in the early, well, mid-2000s. You see a sharp decrease there. And the reason behind is the increase of end-use gas prices. So what you see is that whenever the prices has been approximated to true costs of gas, gas use in the household sector went down considerably. And I will come back to this point later. The issue of prices. This is the demand projection and savings target of Hungary. I don't want to bore you with the data because they are not important per se. I would like to draw your attention to 2 things. One is so we have a business as usual and a policy scenario. And what you see is that from the data of 2008 and 2012, there is a big decrease in energy use. And the policy scenario is the energy efficiency scenario. And there the data is the latest projection, which is 100 petajoule lower than the projection in 2010. So it's very important to update projections, because if you don't update them, you can have really obsolete targets. The table on the below, it shows the distribution of the savings target between the different sectors. So this is the savings targets in final energy use, not primary energy use. So what you see is our intention to save most of this energy in the residential sector. And I think it's, again, very similar in the countries in the region that heat demand in the residential sector is quite big. So the potential there is quite big. Okay. What you see here is primary energy consumption, the real data, and you see the target. Is it a strong target? No. Okay. I think it's not a strong target. Something about legislation. So Hungary had to transpose the EED. We were very, very late transposing it. But now we have a new energy efficiency law, but this is very much a framework law, and it includes mainly a listing of the tasks of further implementing legislation, and some tasks for public institutions, so what their role will be in the implementation of the directive. This HEPURA is the energy office. So the energy office, the regulator, got a new role. Now it has to be the data center for energy savings. So this is completely new for them. Regarding Article 7 and energy efficiency obligation scheme, Hungary opted not to have energy efficiency obligation scheme. It was not even discussed very much. I think it was very much decided from the beginning. And but there is no official, how to say, justification for that. My hint would be that, well, we have EU funds until 2020, so let's use these funds and provide financial incentives and have the targets implemented in this way. What I put there, there's three kind of alternative measures. It's direct quotes from the energy law. This is how deep the energy law goes into the details how Article 7 will be implemented. So there will be some kind of energy audit mentor service. I guess it will be a free energy audit, so it will be a kind of financial support. There will be green loan for households, and there are huge debates about that because initially they were non-refundable grants, and then a few weeks later the government declared there will be no grants, only loans. And if you are aware of the psychological attitude of Hungarians towards loans, they will not take much loans because we had a huge crisis on foreign currency-based mortgages. I know it's similar in Ukraine. So even when the loan would be economically viable and a good choice, I think there is a lot of resistance to take loans. So I would propose the Hungarian government to go back to the original idea and use some of the EU money as a non-refundable grant. Okay, something about this public sector. So there is this 3% annual renovation requirements in terms of floor area. What is unique in Hungary is that, well, you have to reach the minimum cost, the cost optimal level, but if you use public funds, and public funds means EU funds, you have to go deeper in renovation. So this is a way to kind of incentivize public institutions. Once they have public money, they should go deeper. What is problematic, I think, is that basically the idea is to give 100% support intensity. It means that the whole investments will be, the money will be given. And as an economist, I don't agree with 100% support intensity. It brings a lot of moral hazard. 66 buildings altogether. Hungary is a small country, and there are lots of exemptions which this article doesn't relate to. Something about green public procurement. This is again a quote from the relevant legislation. Well, it needs to be considered if it's cost efficient, economically viable, sustainable, technically feasible, and compatible with competition. So on this basis, I don't think it's a very strong language, so I don't consider it a very good and forward-looking legislation in terms of energy efficiency, inclusion of energy efficiency consideration in public procurement. Oops, again. No. Okay. Can you go back? Oh no, it's just slow. No, it's just slow. Okay. Okay, so we have a building strategy, and it's again, you see the same logic. So you need to go, you need to reach the cost optimal level by 2015 when public support is used. Otherwise, normally the rule is to reach this level only in 2018. But whenever public money is used, you have to, be more pioneer. There is one thing which I would like to mention is that Hungary is compiling a registry of public buildings. It's a very simple thing. I thought it a very simple thing, but then I realized that before then, no one knew how many public buildings we have, what is the overall floor area, let alone the energy characteristics of these buildings. And I think it's very, very important to have basic information on which strategies and plans can be devised. Yeah, I think I'll just... So we have separate targets for public buildings and residential buildings. Something about funding. Well, first of all, we have EU funds. They are disbursed according to operational programs. There are 2 funding periods. One is 2008 to 2013, and the current one is up to 2020. Previously, we had a single administrative body dealing with EU funds, regardless of the topic or the policy area. This has been dissolved, and now basically each topic area is located in the relevant ministry. So energy is located in the Ministry of National Development. Okay. What is unique again is that in the calls, energy efficiency and renewable energy is always used jointly, and the reason behind is often they are both related to buildings, so each one program can incorporate elements of using renewables and also energy efficiency. We used to have AAU sales. These are the Kyoto units, but Hungary was not very good seller of Kyoto units, and we were very late selling. And of course, we used the EU ETS quotas sales. Again, the data is not so important. Timing is important. And again, the support intensity is important. So what you see, it goes up until 2010. We used all the money. We managed to make some kind of reshuffling, and from transport money, we introduced some money back to this energy efficiency. But then we had to disperse very quickly. And then the intensity of the support went up very quickly. And as I told you before, I don't think 100% energy support intensity is good. Well, this is about the future, but I don't think I will discuss that. The only important thing is that non-refundable money, it gets more important in this funding period than it was before, especially for economic enterprises. I have a case study, but I don't know if I'll have the time. Okay, I'll go quickly. It's about district heating. We have lots of 200 district heating companies in Hungary, some big, some small. And because of the increasing energy prices, this district heating company made a huge modernization program. And the interesting thing in this case is that they were tackling energy efficiency at end use, on supply side, and also they were very good of including cheap heat production sources, basically renewable. So apart from gas, now they have renewable as well. Okay, so what they did is they introduced heat metering, insulations of walls and windows, modernization of the network, so to reduce network loss, so new heat pumps, new frequency modulators, so whatever runs the system. They were financed, the municipality, the consumers, it's very important, the consumers were financing, and the district heating company, and later on EU money was involved as well. So what you see here, on the last, or the one on below, is the adjusted heat demand, how it went down in the whole system, in parallel of going up of the insulation and windows, so the percentage of the walls and windows that has been modernized. And the one on the top, it shows the types of metering. So unmetered went down very quickly. And then by the end of the period, there is no unmetered flat. There is very little manual heat control. And you have modern metering equipment installed. The consequence is that the heat demand in these flats went down considerably. So that's a lot. And the conclusions. Well, I would like to stress that cost-reflective energy prices are the key drivers of energy efficiency. I know it sounds very simple, and it doesn't sound very nice, But there is no point of having all kinds of energy efficiency measures when the prices are not right. And I'm aware of the social implications of high energy prices because I'm coming from a country where it causes problems, and I know that in some other countries it causes even bigger problems. So that's why I would like to consider energy efficiency investments basically a social policy tool. So we are giving a lot of money in social policy frameworks, so we could do it in the energy policy framework. The EED is very important in Hungary. Hungary will not have energy efficiency obligation scheme. EU funds are very important now, but I'm aware and we are aware that this is the last chance we have the privilege of using a huge amount of external money. So one of the policy priorities in Hungary, at least in my view, is to use these funds very, very efficiently, because later on we will not have these funds. And one last comment about district heating. There are new developments in Hungary that renewable district heating is gaining a lot of field, especially biomass, and recently geothermal. So Hungary is very successful in using geothermal in district heating, and the role of the state here is to support the drilling from EU money. Thank you very much.
Дякую, пані Пато. Квінтесенція угорського досвіду – це високі ціни і немаленькі гранти з боку Європейського Союзу. Поглянемо, що в нас в Польщі. Пані Сюзанна Новак. Вона також була активною і є в нашому проєкті. Польщу часто ми сприймаємо як взірцеву для нас країну в багатьох відношеннях. І дійсно по практиці енергоефективності там є чому повчитися. Але я не хотів би якось окремо виділяти польську сторону. Прошу, пані Сюзанна.
Thank you very much. I am extremely happy to be here in this fantastic room. And if my predecessors didn't have presentations, I would probably spend all time looking at this fantastic ceiling above. Second thing is that I'm very happy that my predecessors had very precise presentations. In this way, I learned something too. And on the other hand, I feel a little bit released because now I would like to present you a bit broader recommendations and lessons that I learned from the Polish experience. So just to explain, I work for the Polish Institute of International Affairs. So contrarily to other speakers, we are not an energy institute. We've got only 2 people trying to cover all energy matters in the whole world. That's why also this presentation will be a bit broader. This will be rather a zoom-out approach from what we saw before. This is a think tanker's view, so it is a little bit different, based on Polish experience, of course, without going into too many details, because probably you know Polish experience, some of you know Polish experience even better than I do. But I would like to show you my comments on the patterns we could see before and what I would suggest for Ukraine. So first of all, this is the very broad outline. I will speak about energy efficiency in very broad terms, why we should apply this, what is important and how we can make it, and of course every time what are the main lessons from our experience in Poland, and also what are the main challenges that I could identify, meaning legal, financial, or organizational. So starting with this very colorful chart, this is about capturing benefits of energy efficiency, and I'm pretty sure you know it. And there's, in theory, no need to convince anyone that energy efficiency is important. But then there are a lot of problems. The story is not that simple. Simply, we have to analyze and define most appropriate incentives and reasons why we would like to apply energy efficiency. Of course, for Poland, at the very beginning, there was this dilemma between economic growth and low intensity of economy and high efficiency. this is a dilemma that Ukraine will also have to face, especially your situation is even much more difficult because of the crisis and the war. But this is feasible. I mean, conciliation of those two elements is absolutely feasible. When you have a look at short-term costs and long-term benefits, you will see that it makes sense. Of course, we heard already today the slogan that the best fuel is the one that you don't use, so energy efficiency is the solution. Another reason why we could, of course, think about energy efficiency, it's obligations, energy community and the EU law. After the Polish accession to the European Union, we could see a very rapid convergence towards the EU levels of Polish economy. Of course, a lot of things have been done and a lot of things still remain to be done in Polish case. But anyway, this transformation period was an important period for energy efficiency. But then what we were looking mostly into, it was about bills for consumers, it was about competitiveness, it was about coal and production of electricity from coal and diminution of levels, increase of efficiency of this electricity production. Now our indicators, we saw it during the presentation of Łukasz on his graph. Energy intensity of Polish economy is relatively high. We were 7th from the bottom, so that's already quite an achievement from what we had before, but we are still lagging behind the European champions. A lot remains to be done. But when we have a look still at the list of elements why we should improve our energy efficiency, it changed over time. Before it was a matter of transformation. Right now we are directing rather more towards other reasons like energy security, especially right now with the crisis, then CO2 reductions because of climate negotiations, green economy because of competitiveness. As you can see, when you think about why you should implement measures towards energy efficiency, you have to think of relevant arguments. You have to choose the ones that are most important right now and will be important later on too. Second thing, it's about defined targets. Of course, we've got in all strategic documents, policy plans, etc., we've got a numbers of elements we have to take into account, a number of targets, whether it's the modernization of distribution network or smart metering or support for research and development and innovations, etc., etc. We've got a lot of them. But what is most important is to set the level that we want to achieve, an overall target that we would like to have. So you can see it's 9% reduction by 2016, 20 by 2020, etc. All countries have the targets. Then we have to have, of course, the time frame, and all these priorities have to be put and included in strategies and laws and have to be taken into account not only within energy-related policies, but also you have to take them into account in all other policies of the country when, of course, it is relevant. So you can see that there is, of course, a change over the time. The further you go, the more difficult it becomes to progress with the same pace. So this is one of the challenges that you will have to face. Of course, right now, when you are a little bit behind our experience in Poland, maybe you cannot see this perspective, but you have to bear in mind the fact that in the future it will become more and more complicated, as it is already in Poland, because the further you go, the more difficult it is. Then, one more thing in here, how you can improve your energy efficiency. Of course, so I would begin, still I underline that I am a think tanker and I am not energy efficiency expert, but what you have to take into account, and we have to take it into account whether it's at the beginning of the energy efficiency improvements or later on, like in Polish case, you have to take into account general trends. It will be growing energy demand, it will be increasing number of households, it will be increasing surface of households that we will have, it's lower heating and cooling importance for these considerations, because if the energy efficiency is growing, it is not anymore that important. There will be other major preoccupations. Still increase increase of electricity consumption in commercial buildings. It will be increase of mobility of people. This is all changing. So we have to take into account also general trends that will be concerning your country. Of course, you have to think big and go big. We saw with Hungarian case that the target was not that high. So you have to think a bit further. You have to think a bit bigger. Then, of course, it is about strategic thinking, putting all major elements you have into precise documents. You have to have energy efficiency commitments, but also take into balanced with some broader economic developments, fiscal policy objectives, political and social interests. Of course, you have to associate those goals with some other policies, and this is a very basic thing, but do you have, I don't know, maybe you'll tell me, do you have programs in school during classes of, I don't know, physics, for example, about energy efficiency? This is something you have to also take into consideration. It's a very basic thing, but even in Poland, we have problems with education. So you have to put those energy efficiency considerations into other policy domains, also in education. Of course, energy efficiency, it's change or adaptation of flows and policies, technologies, about habits, individual, collective, private, public. It's about measures. It will be decentralization in Ukraine. So a lot of things to be done, a lot of things to be taken into account. That's why your programs and your solutions must be optimal, but ambitious and still remaining realistic. Then what I can see as main challenges. Here you've got, of course, it's not an exhaustive list of some acts that are linked to energy efficiency or include some provisions on energy efficiency. What I underline always, it's this strategic thinking. You have to have some aims that you translate into targets, then into strategies, and finally to precise policies. What is important in all this, it's coherence and stability. If you have previsible laws and stable laws with realistic and, what is even more important, respected timeframes, you can go further, you can achieve more. This is the example of Polish white certificates. At the end of last year, we were voting in the parliament continuation of these white certificates schemes, but it was, I would say, improvisation. Of course, it was foreseen as such, but it was at the latest moment so that white certificates could work. So we lacked a little bit of this forward thinking. Then one more thing, it's about synergy of different actors. We've got in here European law, we've got in here Polish law, then we've got some it's not on that list, I think, but we have also some regulations that should be applied by local entities. So we have to create this convergence of aims, raise awareness on all levels, and simply collaborate all together. It's not only effort of the government that in one village somewhere energy efficiency will increase. It's a common effort. Then, when it comes to financial challenges, there are a lot of actors around, not only in the country, but also outside of the country, and you know it already, willing to help in all energy efficiency endeavors. It's not only a matter, a national, local matter, it's a matter of the European Union, of the whole region, also of the planet, if we go even further. Proper management of funds, in this case, is really important. What I saw quite a long time ago, and I hope it changed in Ukraine, is that there was a kind of donor competition. So you've got a lot of different funds. I'm just inventing, so you've got Germans and Swedes and Danes and Poles competing over some projects. They all give money for these projects, but the money is not used in the best possible way. So in my opinion, what is important is to manage properly funds you have, not only because your donor requires so, but also for the purpose of going further with your own projects and having a broader vision of what you are doing. Then another thing is proper information on funding schemes that you have to have. You have to ensure quite easy access to those funds without having unnecessary barriers. Criteria for grants distribution and funds distribution, they have to be transparent. You have to, that's the matter of corruption, you have to eliminate corruption so that donors come to you and give you money on the one hand, and on the other hand, that people that are interested in improving energy efficiency can take advantage of these funds. Then one more thing, it's stability of the legal framework that I mentioned before, that goes together with this transparent funding. All this together, it increases your capacity to attract even more funding and more investments from abroad. So this is a very general thing, but still you have to take it into consideration. The better you act, the more you will have. And then organizational challenges. Of course, this is the Polish case. You've got Ministry of Development, Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Environment, National Fund, and government as such. Then you've got business, then you've got society, then you need education of experts, a lot of different actors that work within an institutional setup. So division of roles must be very clear and must be respected. But all together they have to work in a very good way so that the whole endeavor of energy efficiency increase in the country works very well. Then you've got a lot of priorities, so you have to, of course, concentrate on issues, like it was also the case in Poland, that are most cost-effective in the short term, because you will have the biggest benefits in the short term, with visible results and with some co-benefits like new jobs or lowering import dependency. So it might be, as in case of Poland, and as far as I understand Ukraine, it is about households with the biggest potential for energy savings, and only later on there is industry. And the outcomes, that was already said today, is that you have to aim for proper monitoring of your spendings, proper monitoring of your achievements. Zuzana mentioned that you have to update your projections, etc. So since I'm running out of time, I will not go into details, but the main idea is as such. So of course, these are very broad things and recommendations, but I still think that it's never enough to repeat them. And of course, you've got precise solutions, you've got precise elements that you have to take into account, but also keep in mind some of these guidelines. Of course, this list is not exhaustive. And one last thing that I would like to say, even if tastes shouldn't be discussed as such, but keep in mind the fact that this is just the most recent change, but I will not go into this. You have to bear in mind the fact that consequences of your actions will remain with you for quite a long time. And their correction might be not that easy. When you think about these buildings, some may like them, I don't like them. It's not only about the color of the painting, it's about the long-term decisions that you make. So make your decisions in a clever way so that you don't regret them later on. That's most important in my opinion. Thank you.
Дякую, пані Сюзанна. Колеги, отже, ми маємо таку собі вишеградську панораму. І тепер нам важливо з'ясувати на цьому вишеградському фоні, де ми, де Україна. Україна, звичайно, тут, ми вдома. Ми розуміємо, що нам належить зробити велетенську роботу. Не можна сказати, що ми знаходимося в нульовій фазі. Ні, ми рушили вперед. Безперечно, що ми потребуємо того досвіду і сприяння, про яке говорили наші експерти. Тому, оскільки ми маємо гарних коментаторів, я би хотів надати слово їм, поставивши питання не тільки позиціонувати, де Україна стосовно Вишеграду, але й з точки зору того, які можуть бути конкретно задіяні інструменти. Зокрема, я вже звертав увагу, що, наприклад, угорський досвід свідчить про те, що доволі потужна грантова підтримка була. І не тільки в Угорщині, в цілому. Ми бачимо, що по презентаціях, що значною мірою це спрацювало на рівні вирішення питань енергоефективності за рахунок різноманітних інструментів Європейського Союзу. Більшість з них недоступна для України, бо не член Європейського Союзу, але разом з тим є низка програм, які дозволяють в тому числі і отримати грантові ресурси. Наскільки це так, і наскільки це може бути зроблено швидко, і наскільки це може прийти не просто в Україну десь те, що раніше немало приходило в вигляді budget support, і потім десь розчинялось незрозуміло де, я попрошу до слова тоді пана Кшиштофа Герульського, який не просто представляє Європейську комісію, а є членом групи сприяння Україні. Дуже прошу, пане Кшиштоф. Я попрошу для коментаторів у межах 5 minutes. Okay.
Хорошо, но 5 минут это будет мало для меня. Добрый вечер всем, уважаемые дамы и господа, дорогие коллеги, шановные пани и панове. Если 5 минут, так я буду по-английски, надеюсь, так все будет понятно. Комментарии. Я думаю, сначала так. Если смотреть на опыт Европейского Союза sorry, I wanted to switch to English. Okay, I switched to English. If you want to see experience, real experience in energy efficiency, in the European Union there is a lot of it, probably more than in many other parts of the world. And if you look at what can be more easily applicable to Ukraine, if I was Ukrainian, I would look to Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Poland, Lithuania, because they have similar history. Yes, there were some questions in the first session about some detailed questions, for example, about metering. How long did it take? And I had the feeling that, maybe you also had the feeling that none of the speakers really answered the question. I think they didn't exactly answer because they didn't remember. It happened 20 years ago very fast, very quickly, because it was a necessity. It was something obvious, necessary. There are many reforms going on in Ukraine. I'm coming from the European Commission Support Group for Ukraine, helping with all the reforms. Myself, I'm working on energy efficiency. So this is my area, and I can see how much needs to be done and how difficult it is. And you know that it is difficult. However, I would like to mention also another ongoing reform. I think with bringing a lot of hope for Ukraine. This is decentralization reform. It was mentioned in the morning, in the previous session. Giving more competencies, also money, to local authorities. Giving them a chance to take action. And I think for energy efficiency, this is very important because a lot of energy efficiency is going to happen at local level. There will be, of course, projects in industry, in transport, in large scale, but a lot, and for Ukraine, for the energy independence of Ukraine, a lot will happen in buildings and in district heating. This is local level, this is municipalities. This is your area, and it's nice that we are having this meeting in Lviv. Now, in reality, local authorities to take action, local actors to take action need a framework. So they need legislation, and some of the speakers before said from experience of different countries that if you want to have some development, if you want some investors to invest their money, they need stable legal environment. And if Ukraine, and I do believe Ukraine needs investments also from the European Union, from companies who can come to Ukraine bringing real experience and know-how and technologies. They will come if there is a stable legal environment similar to the one which is in the European Union. So the real motivation to implement the legislation of the European Union in Ukraine on energy efficiency should not be just because there is association agreement with the European Union, because there is energy community treaty, but because Ukraine needs to develop and for the economic development, because this economic development is also part of the energy independence of the country, you need to create stable environment, legal environment. There is a lot of legislation. A lot of this was mentioned by previous speakers. I think the Energy Efficiency Directive will be a big challenge for Ukraine, but it will be really good to implement it here because it will push for clarifying governance. Who is responsible for different elements? For different elements, we know already, and it's very good for Ukraine, that Deputy Prime Minister Zubko is strongly supporting both decentralization and energy efficiency. Energy efficiency, which is in the competence of Ministry of Regional Development, which is buildings and district heating. Very important sectors in Ukraine. So this is very good. And it is very good that we have state agency in Ukraine for energy efficiency who can help with some work, but there is still a lot of tasks to be defined. Who is going to do what? Some of them will have to be done by the Ministry of Energy and Coal, energy efficiency in distribution and transmission of electricity and gas, there's Ministry of Energy, and so on. Ministry of Economy will have a lot to do about creating environment for ESCOs. By the way, this is the only energy efficiency law which was really passed last year in Ukraine. There is a lot to be done still. Yet creating conditions for public procurement of energy efficient goods. This is also Ministry of Economy. So you see there is a lot of different institutions in Ukraine that will have to sit down, agree what needs to be done and who will be doing it. And of course, there is a donor society, different countries, also countries sitting here around the table who are willing to help. But it is important that there is a decision on the Ukrainian side and allocation of people with whom the donors and the European Commission can work with. Now there was also mentioning of, I mentioned also decentralization. The new legislation on energy efficiency, this directive, which was mentioned several times today, will push for introducing new obligations, new framework for local authorities to do local energy planning, to do energy management, local energy managers, to do public procurement at local level, also by local authorities. All this needs to be put in legislation and in non-legislative measures. For example, training programs. That's something that may need to be discussed in the near future. We cannot wait too long. Yes, I should also mention the few colleagues from countries here around the table also mentioned that the key pillar of this energy efficiency directive, the key challenge for Ukraine now, will be introduction of energy efficiency obligation schemes or alternative measures. I will mention here ex cathedra. I'm really convinced this is the only solution now for Ukraine. The only realistic solution is to implement these provisions through energy efficiency fund, which 2 days ago, the concept of which has been presented both in Ukrainian and in English on the website of the Cabinet of Ministers. So this work is already developing. There will be some possibilities for the Ukrainian stakeholders to look into energy efficiency, in particularly in this situation in the context of this fund in the residential sector. This is the big challenge. And yes, I think that I have lots of comments, but maybe better to keep them for the discussion. Thank you.
Дякую, пане Кшиштоф. Ви зробили дуже важливі коментарі. Я думаю, вони належним чином оцінені. Поглянемо на ситуацію в Україні з точки зору Організації економічного співробітництва і розвитку, яка об'єднує промислово розвинені держави. І в цьому сенсі, я думаю, якщо таку систему координат ми ще далі знаходимось, але тим не менше важливо себе правильно позиціонувати з тим, щоб, як говорять, коли до нас звертаються наші друзі і партнери, то вони часто говорять: допоможіть нам допомогти вам. Тому я прошу до слова пана Антоніо Сомма з вашим коментарем, вашою оцінкою.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. I would like to briefly offer some comments on two aspects. One is the context of energy efficiency in Ukraine, and the other one is OECD recommendations on one of the topics that's been mentioned today, which stem from a recent project that has been summarized in a report which is available here in case you're interested to take it. First of all, in terms of the context for energy efficiency in Ukraine, we've heard a lot of numbers, a lot of figures related to countries in the Vishegrad group and in Europe. But I want to underline that the magnitude of the phenomenon of energy inefficiency today in Ukraine is totally different relative to the rest of the region. One number, now in the plethora of numbers, I don't remember if it's mentioned or not, but one number that is quite telling is that for each 1,000 euros of GDP in Ukraine, there is a consumption of equivalent of 0.36 tons of oil. This is simply 3 times the consumption for equivalent GDP production in OECD members. All this to say that energy efficiency efforts in Ukraine today are not a matter for debate. They are an obligation. They are an obligation, first of all, of Ukraine vis-à-vis itself and its citizens and its companies. So whether energy efficiency makes the country more competitive, whether it benefits citizens, is probably something that we need to pass. It's important to start to do it. Now, today, all the speakers, I think with no exceptions, have mentioned the ESCOs, the energy service companies. And this was one of the topics of a project that the OECD has carried out with the government of Ukraine. So, what are the ESCOs? ESCOs are private businesses, and I underline private businesses, which offer a broad range of energy services, from audits to implementation. And it's very important that the ESCOs are private entities because the benefit of ESCOs for the market will not only be energy efficiency, it will also be the development of a sector of the economy which is meant to be profitable. Now, in terms of the recommendations, it's now time for Ukraine to be focused on few actionable recommendations. And time is going fast. For these reasons, the OECD offered 12 specific recommendations on how to stimulate the establishment and the proper functioning of a ESCO market in Ukraine. These 12 recommendations are clustered along 4 policy areas, which cover all the main structural issues to achieve a functioning market when it comes to ESCO. And the main point is that the key today is to properly match, on an ongoing and sustainable basis, properly match demand and supply of energy efficient services. So the objective of those 12 recommendations are to ease access to finance in order to push the supply of energy services, but also to introduce incentives to stimulate the demand for ESCO services. Third, to match the supply and demand through coordination and through improved capacity among market players. And last but not least, to make this market sustainable by raising awareness and promoting the ESCO models, which will not start and even less will function by itself. It must be stimulated. Now, the recommendations that I'm talking about, because we don't have time, I will not go through them, but they are summarized in this report. There are several copies here at the table, which you are free and welcome to take. The report has been one of the results of the OECD Ukraine Sector Competitiveness Strategy project, which is co-financed by the European Union and the government of Sweden. And even more importantly, the report is the result of a collaborative effort, which has included the national government of Ukraine, including the State Agency of Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving, and experts from OECD members. I will stop here, and I want to conclude from where I started. This is a very interesting, very timely event, and I look forward to discussions today and tomorrow around this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Somma. Шановні пані і панове, ми зараз зробимо невеличку паузу на кілька хвилин, оскільки мені повідомив протокол про те, що заступники міністрів закордонних справ країн Вишеграду завершили свою роботу і щось хочуть нам повідомити, очевидно. Тому всі лишаються на місцях. Зараз тут замінять таблички. Сюди прийдуть заступники міністрів, щось розкажуть нам, а потім ми підведемо підсумки, і пан Кірчев буде мати наступне слово. Тому робимо невелику паузу. Yes, but later, because deputy ministers finalized the meeting, so they very... Да, но я думаю, что мы кратко закончим, потому что у нас потом поехать дальше, программа. Сколько времени уйдет?
І рекомендації. Це аналітичний матеріал.
Да.
Дякую вам.
Саша, привет. Привет.
Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте. Да вы пропустили мою презентацию.
Да? Понятно. А как ты успел приехать? С утра. Нет, мы приехали утром. Мы вчера еще все. Ну да. Мы ж как бы да. Абсолютно. Но все равно. група организаторов. Саша, извини, сейчас я должен урегулировать вопрос. Не, я завтра буду целый день, послезавтра. Нет, у нас, в принципе, завтра основной день. Вот. Хорошо, через неделю, потому что я тоже приезжаю и буквально в тот же день еду в Харьков. Вот. Потом, да, то есть оно как бы... Буду, но там что-то я повернусь. Вот, да, это же первое, да, точно. Хорошо, договорились. Все, извини, сейчас я должен быстренько это самое. Увидимся еще тогда, да. Ясно.
Ну, давайте так, я скину вам презентацию. Если у вас будут какие-то конкретные вопросы, вы их выпишите, и мы по каждому вопросу потом пройдемся. Или по телефону, или я напишу ответ имейл, как вам будет удобно. В Киеве, да. Там же где есть, в том же помещении.
Я еще не я планирую, если все будет так, как я планирую,
Ну, вы заранее должны сказать, потому что там я могу точно еще неизвестно, а может быть вместо поставщика будет отпуск. Поэтому, да, может, я не знаю, еще неизвестно. Вот, но просто вы заранее напишите, когда вы, на какие даты вы планируете приезжать, чтобы я смог с ним согласовать. Да, да.
Спасибо большое. Если завтра будете?
Да, завтра.
Ну, я здесь буду тоже, вот, какую-то презентацию.
Да, хорошо, тогда вот, или вы, пожалуйста, напишите мне просто пустой e-mail.
Ясно.
Что мы с вами встречались, просто чтобы у меня не потерялось.
Ясно. Вот,
я вам вышлю презентацию в понедельник, когда я буду в Киеве.
Ну, понедельник я вас уже в вторник.
Ну, не важно, понедельник не важно.
Спасибо большое.
Ну, я понял. Презентацию имеется в виду слайды.
Áno, viem.
Môže, na záver môžete pozvať, kto platí na imitačný.
Tak. Ale kto to platí? SFP? Kto? MZV? SFP?
Nie, veľvyslanectvo.
No dobre, tak aby som nehovoril. Dobre. Takže nič, takže to je... Dobre.
Glazovanie sa čeká.
Dobre. So... Vypoviete niečo? Nie. So, ladies, no, the only question was whether you would like to take the floor after me, myself, or not. It's not No, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, to cut a long story short, I do not want to waste much of your time, but still I would possibly like to say a couple of words on the day that we have witnessed together, partially for us, but to a large extent for our good collaborators who were able to report back on what was happening after we have left the university to meet, as you may know, the Lord Mayor of the city of Lviv. First of all, I was assured that you have enjoyed a practical discussion on some tactical and strategical issues, and I hope it was enriching for you. From the very outset, we wanted to have, the opportunity to get together, to link the people, to network, and possibly to give rise, to conceive, if you like, some specific issues, some specific examples of concrete cooperation. And I hope again that sort of environment was created today and here. In the first panel that I had the privilege to chair, I would say if there is one thing that I would like you to remember of that panel is that there was indeed a very strong political but also practical commitment on the part of all 4 Visegrad nations to, so to say, walk you through the reform, also in this field, in many other fields. This is the gist of what we were trying to convey to you. Of course, and this was the staple of our discussion from the very morning today, for that reforms you will need a stable political environment. You will also need the ownership of those reforms. And I'm afraid I'm not able to tell you that you will need the peace in Ukraine, because I'm afraid that you don't have the luxury to wait until the whole Ukrainian territory will be at peace. I'm afraid you need to work in parallel to securize the Ukraine, but also to reform it. On the second panel, which unfortunately I missed, I understand that there was a serious discussion on the role of legislation in the area of energy efficiency. And I understand that the discussion was on how to use the foreign financial resources, how to use them efficiently and how to use them wisely. Of course, we are referring mainly to the EU funds, but there are so many other programs. There is a G7 program, as far as I know, on the energy efficiency. There is an OECD program on the energy efficiency. There is the UN program on the energy efficiency. So I was informed that there were very, very, I would say, very important comments, valuable comments and guidelines made by the representatives of the international organizations. And I've already mentioned the European Commission and the OECD. At the close, and these are indeed my final remarks, I would indeed like to thank the organizers. I would like first to thank my dear colleagues, State Secretary Ludva, State Secretary Mikola, and State Secretary Jolkovsky, But I would like to specifically mention one man who is like the agens movens of this event, and this is Alexander Sasha Duleba, who is the director of the Slovak Foreign Policy Association. We are, of course, grateful to the Lviv Polytechnic National University, Mr. Chancellor. We are thankful to the city of Lviv. We are thankful to the Lviv Regional Council for giving us this opportunity. And last but not least, I would like to thank you for your active approach, for your active participation in this event. Last word, I wish to invite you for a glass of wine, which will be provided, which will be offered in the adjacent premises. Thank you so much. Ďakujem.
Шановні учасники круглого столу, день пройшов дуже швидко, але я дуже надіюся, що якщо вам сподобалась організація цього заходу, якщо вам сподобався актовий зал і все, що зв'язано з Львівською політехнікою, ми в будь-який момент чекаємо на нові заходи, які ви будете проводити у Львові. До зустрічі в Львівській політехніці.
Шановні панове, оскільки, безперечно, важко конкурувати з келихом вина, то ми продовжимо нашу панель завтра, тому що у нас буде ще можливість зустрітися завтра. Таким чином, в поєдинку дискусії чи келих вина перемагає келих вина. І, напевно, це логічно. Because mentions that after